We would like to welcome everyone to our council meeting. Today's date is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. We welcome all of you that are here and welcome all of those who will be joining us on the YouTube. We have an opening today from Councilman Nolan Gunnell.
I just want to say a few words, being at July and we celebrate our independence and our freedom. I hope that each of us take some time and think about those military people who have served before us and those who are serving now. I just recently read a book by the name of A Higher Call that talked about an American bomber pilot and a German fighter pilot and some things that happened in World War II. A very, very interesting book. It gave you a side of the American side of the story and also what some of the Germans faced as they had to fight, even though they didn't want to. So I hope we remember that, and especially today as we say the Pledge of Allegiance and the meaning of that flag and what it means to so many people, and including myself. So given that, and then I'd like to have my opening comments in the form of a prayer. Our Father in heaven, we come before thee this day as we give thanks for this nation and the many things it provides us, our freedom, our protection, our peace, and our safety. And we give thanks to those men and women who provide that. And may they be blessed in all the lands and places that they serve, and their families also for their sacrifice. We're grateful for this opportunity to serve and to meet and to discuss things, and we pray that we will do it in a manner that is consistent with how thou would have it done. We're grateful for all that we have and give thanks for this, and we do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Now if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Gunnell. Awesome. All right, has everyone had a chance to review the agenda and would like to approve it or have any changes?
Madam Chair, I move to amend the agenda.
Okay.
Add item B under 7, department or committee reports, and add starting fire update from Chief Rod Hammer.
Very good. Okay.
I will second that amendment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we're going to add a report from Chief Hammer on the Sardine Fire update. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda with that amendment.
Second.
Oh, okay. Okay, we've been, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda with that amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from June 14th and June 28th?
Madam Chair, I'd like to thank whoever made the correction for the June 14th with the workshop.
Okay.
So I move to approve
Okay.
minutes. Both sets.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve both sets.
I'll second.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we approve both sets of minutes for June 14th and June 28th. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
Thank you. All right, we will now take time to have a report from our county executive, David Sook. And do you have anything to give to us?
Yes, just really briefly, Madam Chair, thank you. I just want to start off by thanking Chief Hammer and all of his staff, as well as the other agencies from the other cities in the valley, the state, and the United States government who stepped in to help with the Sardine fire. It was so hot out there this weekend, it still is. And just to see them climbing a very steep hill with all of that equipment on, hauling equipment up there, sometimes hoses, shovels, and walking up to a fire to protect the homes in that area. It was an incredible sight to see, and I just want to express my gratitude to them. One other item, just wanted to give the council an update on the developments Services Director position. Councilmember Gunnell, thank you for helping with the interview process. We've been moving forward with that. Doing some more interviews next week and hope to have somebody to present for your advice and consent soon. And in the interim, I've asked Dirk if he would fill in.
I'm sorry, who?
In the interim, I've asked Dirk if he would fill in.
Okay.
Until we get permanent replacement there, so he's helping out there for the moment. That concludes my report. Thank you, Madam
Great.
Chair.
Thank you so much. All right. Items of special interest, the open space ballot discussion. Is there anyone that wanted to discuss that or how they're feeling about that from our workshop on open space?
Venture to say something. I really appreciated the work that the members of this committee did, and really appreciate their dedication to open space. I think we all want to have open space. I will list two of my concerns that I have. I'm concerned about putting something on the ballot like that in this climate where we've got rising inflation, looming recession. It really worries me about the burden that it could put on those with fixed incomes. And the second part of that is, and I hope this, if we don't put it on the ballot, that this committee will take it and still move forward. I would rather have more details before we put it on the ballot, like what kind of properties exactly are we talking about? What's the process? Who's on the committee? How is this going to function? Because I'm not sure that those things are figured out yet, but I think it would be wise for people to know, because I feel like if we put it on the ballot, I don't want them to think like we sold them a bill of goods, because some might think, oh, open space means this, and some think it means this. And they might be frustrated, disappointed, whatever, when their particular thing that they thought it was for, and they misunderstood, and it didn't go to that. And so I want to make sure everything's clear and the process is established. So for those two reasons, at this point, I'm a no for putting it on the ballot, but I want the committee to know how much I appreciate their work and hope that they'll continue to work on this issue.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I'll just say that I've been to a couple of the meetings. I didn't make it to all. I doubt it's a perfect plan, but I don't know there is such a perfect plan. At least it's addressing the open space thing, which so many citizens have said. So I agree with what was been said, that there are some concerns out there, but at least it's a step moving that way. I agree there's concerns. I mean, especially if Cass County School District brings out a bond, we've got the recession and all of those, but in some manner, I almost think the citizens need to know that there's something going on out there, then they've got a voice on it, so they get to vote for it. So it's kind of where I'm sitting.
Okay, very good.
I'd like to make a comment that through the years, this open space issue is not a new one. It's been discussed a lot of time for a lot of years. And it seems like whenever you have this discussion, everybody's for it, but when it comes down to how we're going to fund it, then nobody really has a solution and nobody wants to usually put any of their money in it. The way that this is designed, I think, is an opportunity for everybody to be able to voice their opinion through their vote as to how they feel about it. And not being forced to pay for it. What you're doing is you're saying, this is how we feel by the way we vote, and I think it should be put on the ballot and let the citizens decide. And there's a lot of benefits, there's some concerns with it, but probably in the debate that will take place before the vote, a lot of information will be given out. I'd really like to see it put on the ballot, let the citizens decide.
Any other comments? Yes.
I think the details of the committee, we need to we'll probably distribute these dollars. I think that needs to be forthcoming with more detail as to how that will happen. If it's very similar to the RACS committee, representation is from all the areas, all the districts. I think that would be valuable. And then they basically then send it to us for final approval. And so that there's a a vetting process, and there's another vetting process so that we then fund projects that hopefully are influenced everywhere within the county. So we don't just start favoring one certain area or one type of project. So I think that might answer the questions as to that tax, you know, or that, or, you know, that they're going to levy on that. And I do worry the competition factor right now and the volatility. I really worry about what it's coming up against. If it was a loan initiative, or a loan initiative coming in there to just be voted on, I think it would probably have a good chance. But I do worry about just the competition factor of too many things coming in, being voted on at the same time.
And what, like the school bond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then right now, like I say, there's just so much volatility and so much distrust within growing within government that I hope that doesn't kill its support. You know, that we can still, you know, people maybe can look past that and look down the road. I don't know. I think that like Gordy said, I think we'll let the people decide. So.
Very good. I'm of the same opinion. I understand Gina's concerns and the details of it. I think that's something that can be discussed and worked out before ballot time, but I think the people deserve a chance to vote on it and give their opinion on it. Any other comments? All right, so do we need to vote now on whether we want that approved to go on the ballot, or do we want more discussion, or how's the council feeling on that?
Don't we need something official written to vote on?
You'll need a specific resolution.
Okay, very good.
With bond language.
All right.
So that resolution will have what it looks like on the ballot when people see it?
Yes.
Or will it just have the, okay.
It will have the ballot language in the resolution.
Awesome.
And I know that the committee's been working on
Right.
that ballot language and they
we're
can
on
send that
schedule.
to you. We are on schedule.
So do we want to put it on next week
Yes.
or next time? I mean,
Next meeting.
next meeting.
Okay, very good. Okay, which is the 26th, correct?
Yes, the 26th.
Okay. All right, thank you, council. I appreciate that input on that. All right, we'll move on down to department reports. Is Terrell here? Terrell, please come on up.
Okay, thanks for letting me come this time. Last time we had an emergency. My PowerPoint is wherever. Remember we put it on. Okay. Well, I had a PowerPoint, but I'm not sure if it got deleted off of here. And if it did, I'll just go through a couple of things. Okay. Just to give you an update of a couple of things, we did hire somebody a couple of months ago who's working out very well at the Children's Justice Center as a case coordinator. We are continuing to see a lot of kids at the CJC. So I'll talk about the CJC and then victim services. Oh, wait, is my presentation here? Because it'll be much easier for somebody like me that's old and decrepit to follow. If not, oh well. Maybe that's it. Let's just keep our fingers crossed. Oh, woohoo! It is. Okay. Thank you, Bart.
Same to me. It'll get better.
It will. So, let's see. Is this the little, what do I do? Okay. Funding. Okay, so I wanted to just give you a yearly overview of the funding that we have at the Children's Justice Center and Victim Services. So we have our Voca funding, which is a significant amount of funding we get. We have several Voca grants. We have a Voca grant for our victim services, our main project, our sexual assault set-aside project, and then the Children's Justice Center. So we have 3 funding sources of Voca. We have Voca Funding, which covers a couple of prosecutors that specialize in sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, protective order violations, stalking, injunctions, personal crimes like that, homicides, attempted homicides. We are continuing to see in our domestic violence cases an increased number of filings of aggravated assaults due to strangulation, which could be, just so you're aware, the training we have is that if the pressure it takes to open a pop can is the pressure it needs to kill somebody when strangling. So you've got to, I mean, if you think about that, that's not much pressure to really significantly hurt somebody. We continue to see that being a concern, and our prosecutors are well trained on handling that. We have our state funding with the Attorney General's Office for the Children's Justice Center. And of course, we have our county match, and we are so grateful for our county funding that we receive for victims of crime. We also have some other donations. I'll get into that. We have the Friends Board, and we have other donations. We did have a fun run, and it was fun. And we made some money off of it. And we'll do that again. We are looking at the Children's Justice Center. For many years, we had the teddy bear run. Does anybody here remember the teddy bear run but me? Am I the oldest one in here in terms of, does anybody remember? You do, thank you. Okay, so the teddy bear run was a motorcycle race, a run that would go from here to Box Elder County and back. We stopped doing it, not sure why, but we're going to bring that back. We've had a lot of motorcyclists ask about it. It's a motorcycle bike run, and then they bring a teddy bear or a stuffed animal on their bike, and they ride around the valley, and it's a lot of fun. So we are probably going to do that again in October. Let's see. We'll go through the crimes. These are the crimes that we're seeing. Obviously, there's a lot. We're still seeing tons of domestic violence, family violence. We're seeing sexual assault, physical assault. Now, the physical assaults are physical assaults of non-related people that are adults. Fights. We just had another incident I think it was over the weekend. My weekend has kind of been a blur. We had a lot going on this weekend, but we had a couple of physical assaults with weapons. We're continuing to see bats, guns, knives in those types of events. We are continuing, of course, with our adults molested as children. We're seeing a lot of those where adults are coming forward. It's not uncommon for us to see families have the Children's Justice Center and somebody discloses being abused years before. So these are some of the things we are working on and the cases that our victim advocates and prosecutors are handling. I also wanted to list some of the property crimes. I just want you to know that our victim advocates and our prosecutors are handling hundreds of cases each. When Mike McGinnis, the public defender, did his presentation, for each of those cases, there's usually a victim advocate and a prosecutor. And I do know that before the onset of COVID, we were at about 100 cases each, and that was a lot, and we're well over 250 each now, which is significant. And they're not resolving. And so the courts are opening up. We're starting to see trials, but now we have victim advocates, prosecutors, and public defenders that are working long, long hours as they go through trials. I just wanted to give you some statistics of some of the cases that we're seeing comparing the different years. As you can see from 2022 compared to 2018, our domestic violence cases have literally skyrocketed. They're probably 5-6 times as much. The same with child abuse, several times more than just 4 years ago, and our sexual assault cases. This is really sad and it's really troubling that in Cache Valley, yes?
Terrell, do you have any explanation for that or any ideas of why we've suddenly seen such an explosion? Is it more reporting, more comfortable reporting?
I think that there's more comfort in reporting, but but we have enacted in this state, I'm just going to get on my soapbox, the Justice Reinvestment Initiative. And I'll use Dave as my example. So let's say that I go out and I break into Dave's garage and I steal, what city do you live in again?
I live in the
Town.
county.
That's right.
Smithfield.
Smithfield, okay. So let's say I go to Smithfield and I break into Dave's garage and I steal his $300 bicycle. And I have to go to court for that. The punishment for that is going to be an $800 fine. That I just have to pay that $800 fine, and I'll probably get some community service and some other things. If I steal his $50,000 trailer or tractor, let's say I steal your $50,000 tractor, and I could be really off on that price, sorry. But let's just say it's $50,000 and I steal his tractor. That's a felony. Do you know what's going to happen? I'm going to get a whopping 60 hours of community service. That's it. So what we have done with the Justice Reinvestment Initiative is we have taught people that crime pays. And that's just a really good example. If I go to Smithfield Justice Court, the justice courts are a little bit more, they're making people pay their restitution. They're making them pay their fines. If I go to district court, the state is saying if I don't pay him back for his $50,000 tractor, you're a loss. You have insurance for it. And it is really frustrating. So what we've done is we have taught, and this has been applied to juveniles as well. So if you go into juvenile court, your ability to pay is deemed by your parents. And as a result, so again, let's say Dave and I are in high school and I steal his laptop. And I sell it for $300 to John. What's going to happen to me? Nothing. I'm going to get a citation, and I'm going to write him a letter, but I'm not going to pay him any money, and I'm not going to pay a fine, because that's the way we have worked this Justice Reinvestment Initiative. Now, we hope that legislation will be enacted in the next session or two to fix this, because it's a significant problem where we have taught people that crime pays, especially property crime. So that's what we're seeing. We used to see, and I can tell you, Sarah in my office sits on the Sentencing Commission for the state, and we used to say that child abuse or sexual assault, we use sexual assault as an example, a rape case, we would see 5 to life. Somebody's going to prison for 5 to life if they rape somebody. Now we're getting 60, 90 days. It's a significant difference. When the Justice Reinvestment Initiative was brought forward, it looked really good on paper. And it was to help people through the criminal justice process turn their lives around. The problem is there's been no funding for therapy. There's no additional funding for therapy, for mental health needs, or to hold somebody accountable. And all of us that are parents know you have to hold somebody accountable if you're going to teach them to do something different. And what we've done is we've thrown that out the window. So that's why our numbers look the way they do. And it's only increasing. I was looking at James Swink's stuff at Weber County. Every time I turn around, he's got another murder case. This state is, we've got to hopefully get that reversed. And I know we have people that are working on that. So hopefully I will come to you with better news in a year or two. Okay, so let's talk about the growing issues. Crimes with substance abuse component. We've been tracking that for 25 years, and just about most all of our crime anymore has a substance use component. Drugs, alcohol, something on it. It just continues. Issues with mental health. I know that, that we have looked at a receiving center. I think that would be a great idea, but our mental health issues continue to increase. We've had, again, I'm so sorry, I had my numbers last week, but I think this last week we had another 2 deaths by suicide in this last week that we responded to. Our violence, 72% of families seen at the CJC are reporting abuse in the home, and our strangulation's increasing. We have our criminal justice system, it's really slow. We have multiple victims in a lot of cases. Our pretrial bails, people are getting out. I had a victim, and she was okay with me sharing this. Her ex-husband has been charged with rape of a child. The victim was 6 years old at the time. He was given bail. He has been arrested several times outside of our jurisdiction, and we finally were able to get him in jail. He is in jail in another county. But that abuse, that rape took place 2 years ago. And in the past 2 years, he's had multiple other arrests. That pretrial bail is a problem. And we have the sentencing issues, as I explained, and the juvenile issues. So, any questions? I'm always the bearer of such great news. I just wanted to give you an update on the CJC. When we first opened the CJC last year, we quickly realized that there were some soundproofing issues that would affect our ability to do what we needed to do, which is to conduct forensic interviews and forensic medical examinations. County Attorney John Luthi and I reached out to our community partner Maloof, and the Maloof Foundation agreed to cover the costs of those necessary changes so that we can do the work that we need to do. The Maloof Foundation has paid that. We appreciate them. They have paid that bill. We are almost done with that building, and we anticipate opening that building and moving everything out of the old CJC to the new CJC and being ready for interviews and medical exams by August 15th, on August 15th. I believe that's a Monday. So the building will be deep cleaned over the weekend, and then we will have our interviews and exams there. We will continue to work with the Maloof Foundation and appreciate their generosity in covering that. They have actually paid that bill, and their support. There's just one other thing I wanted to take a minute and talk about, and that is our active shooter training. A couple of you were able to go to some of that, and we sincerely appreciate that. It was one of the best trainings. The feedback, hundreds of people came to that training. We focused on special ed classrooms. We focused on school buses, the CVTD, the university buses. We had meetings with elected officials. We had them meet with law enforcement in a variety of situations. And we felt that that training was the feedback we're getting is that it was phenomenal and really appreciated by the hundreds of people that had the trainings. He was able to adapt trainings to a variety of situations, and we did that in a 7-day period. We would like to bring him back and concentrate on some other areas, but I do know that he gave us some pause to think about and some things to think about in this. So I wanted to let you know that we would like to bring him back, and we're trying to figure out how that would work, because there were a lot of people that have said they really would like to have that training. And his training is not the run, hide, fight. It is defend something. I can't remember. Brain's not working today. Defend, deny, and run away. But it was a D, and it was excellent. I don't know if you had anything to contribute to that. I really thought that when he met, like I know that Senator Sandel and Senator Wilson were like, wait a minute, we've got to look at the Capitol and all those. It's just a matter of time before we have some sort of active shooter incident, but I can tell you that we're prepared for that. And as we looked at the reunification, and John and I have talked about a reunification plan if something happened and where that would be, and working with the county and making sure the Maloof Foundation has agreed they're going to go through the psychological first aid training. We realized that in the case of an active attack or a mass casualty, whether it be natural or otherwise, we would need a lot of people that have the training to help us do our jobs. So anyhow, I don't know if anybody has any other questions.
It was avoid, deny, defend.
Pardon?
Avoid, deny, defend.
That's right. Avoid, deny, defend. Yes. Thank you.
I took notes.
Good.
All right, any questions for Terrell on anything? Thank you so much, Terrell.
We'd like to also thank the fire department for their work. It was a lot of work to read. And a shout out to Deputy Leonard, who was OIC that day, because we moved 87 people to an LDS church. And a shout out to Candace McCreary as well, because we had a lot going on that day. So,
very good. Thank you, Terrell. We appreciate your reports. Thank you. All right. We will go ahead and go with Sheriff Hammer. Thank you.
I haven't been elected yet.
Oh, sorry.
I'll stay with the fire department. Thanks. So
Hammer.
the Sardine Fire started at 2:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. It was over 90 degrees, high winds at the time at the mouth of the canyon. Went uphill really fast. So because it started on state and federal land, which state highways are state land, it instantly becomes a delegated fire. And what that means is the state's responsible for it financially, which is good because we don't end up paying for any of that. As part of a delegated fire or state-run fire, the guys in my office are all kind of an assistant fire warden position, so we operate under the state authority. In this case, Ken Matthews ran the incident. He was the incident commander. The initial response from dispatch was with county fire personnel as well as the volunteer agencies from the south end of the county, Wellsville, of course, Amending, Hiram, and Paradise. And then we also called in Logan for structure protection. So when Northern Utah was notified of the fire, so Northern Utah is the interagency fire dispatch center in Salt Lake that does all the wildfire dispatch. They sent a basic run card, so it was a federal engine, forest engine, and then a helicopter, so we could do the bucket drops and then the support equipment for the helicopter. All in, we had 2 Type 2 IA crews. Those are 20-man hand crews that are federal crews. We had 4 structure engines, and we had 6 brush trucks, so the Type 6 engines, smaller fire engines. In coordination with that, the deputies helped with crowd control, and they evacuated the 27 homes that were threatened. And fortunately, the fire held up at the top of the ridge and didn't continue down. So those folks were allowed back in their homes at 9:30 that night. The Wellsville Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints allowed us to use their church on 700 South, both as an evacuation center as well as set up incident command down there. So we fed our folks there Sunday morning and got them out of there before church started. And then they allowed us to camp there and provide for people there in the parking lot. So initially it was a Type 4 incident, which is on the lower complexity type incident compared to a lot of the fires. Today it was changed to a Type 5, which is even lower. And there's a federal engine on there right now that's monitoring the fire. They'll stay on it until they call it out entirely. So the final acreage was 57 acres, primarily on federal land, Forest Service land, and it's about 80% Forest Service and about 20% city. It's in Wellsville City. So no injuries that I'm aware of, and worked out great. So
Awesome.
We appreciate all the response from the county departments, their hard work, and yeah, it is hot and it is hard, and they did a great job.
Thank you so much for your work and everybody that was involved in that. Thank you. We appreciate it. Hey, any comments?
Just the things.
Yeah.
I drove by that, and it was moving up the hill very fast, so,
Yeah, it was a little western for a minute.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief Hammer. Thank you. All right, we have no Board of Equalization matters. Moving on to public hearing. Public hearing on Ordinance 2022-20, the Fable, is that the right way to say it? Fable Rezone, a request to rezone 4.36 acres from the agricultural A10 zone to the rural 2, RU2 zone, located at 1845 North, 8000 West in Petersboro. All right, Mr. Watkins.
Madam Chair, I think that's pronounced Fable.
Fable, thank you.
Thank you. I'll have this set up in just a moment. All right, good evening. My name is Tim Watkins with Development Services, and for your consideration this evening is the Fable Rezone. This is located at approximately 200 East, 9800 North, close to the Box Elder County border with Cache County. And the request is to zone from the current zone of A10 to RU2. And there are some unique circumstances with this property to explain. This just shows the surrounding area and existing development within the context of this area. So this has an interesting history in that there's been a machining business for a number of years on the property that was permitted at a prior time when a business was permitted as a conditional use in the residential zoning. And since that time of approval, that original parcel for the business was combined with the residential lot and became one unified lot. So there was a time when there were two lots on this property. And so there's some fairly complex changes that have occurred in terms of property boundaries adjusting and so forth. The goal of the applicant is to rezone to the RU2 to allow for creating two lots such that the residential property can be separated by title from the business. The business is currently legal non-conforming, and currently in use. And so this graphic just helps display some of the previous use and in terms of the two parcels. You see previous parcel outlined in white. Parcel 10 was the previous number there. And that would be available as an option again to the applicant if rezoned to RU2 to create that lot based on the density of 1 unit per 2 acres applicable to the total property. It's important to note that the same configuration of lot for the commercial property would be required, such that it is not an increase of a non-conforming use, but it would be maintaining that current historic non-conforming use. This rezone would also allow the applicant to work with adjacent property owners and amendment of subdivision to clean up some of the remnant parcels that you see here that just need some boundary cleanup and configuration to reflect current ownership. And so that's the general goal of the applicant. Staff's recommendation is approval. The Planning Commission voted to recommend approval. And so if there's any questions or comments, happy to discuss that.
Is the business still operating?
It is.
So it's still a machine shop?
That's my understanding that it is.
The staff's recommendation was for approval?
Yes, initially we were
Denial.
approval or denial, and I think at this point we're at a recommendation of approval after working with the Planning Commission.
So what changed?
Yeah.
Because it says here that it says recommended for denial to the county council.
I apologize. I needed to compare that note better.
I thought I read somewhere where it was,
And then the planning commission says for approval.
yeah, that's what I said, that the planning commission said.
It's on page 6.
The thing I'm
That's,
trying to figure out in my mind, at one time, all this stuff was over in Box Elder County, wasn't it? And then at one point, they redid the county lines and it ended up in Cache County?
I don't know that history. And I think the way this was presented to the Planning Commission was either approval or denial, and
you got to recommend it for denial and approval, which they chose.
they chose towards the approval.
Right, but I'm just saying you've given them both on page 6.
Right.
Top one is recommend for denial if they chose that way, and here's the items and conditions. Second one is recommend for approval if they chose that.
And one is by staff and one is by planning commission, right?
That's what I show.
Yeah, that's what I looked at too.
That needed some further coordination, but
Is that a situation where it was being discussed and you wrote up an ordinance that either or, whichever way they went, was the ordinance that you would use? I've seen you do that before. Is that maybe what happened in this?
this was presented as either a recommendation of, it could be approved or denied based on the Planning Commission preference.
Yeah, and the planning commission chose to approve it.
Correct.
And so then that's the ordinance that came forward.
So
Yes, I'm trying to figure out why you would have conflicting
That's, when I read that, I was confused
So-
by that too.
Coordination detail that I wish I would have had further coordinated for this evening.
We got pretty simple minds, and so we kind of like it one way or the other.
I think as it was presented in planning and zoning, staff approval, denial, staff approval, if the commission chooses to approve it. It's here, the planning commission, rather than staff. But if I recall right, because I was there, they give you the two choices, staff based on this, rather than, this top one does read staff recommendation, and the bottom does read planning commission, but I am pretty sure if we went back and looked at the notes, it was staff on both of them.
Right.
Makes sense, depending on how the planning commission decides to go with it. The staff has already identified the conditions.
That was my understanding, and I'm afraid the text doesn't reflect that in the staff report.
So we could go back and look, but for clarity.
I think in the end, I read it as though, after it was all discussion with the recommendations of the staff, the planning commission chose to approve it.
Correct.
That's what I'm reading.
Yes.
Is that
5 yea,
correct?
no nay.
Yeah, 5 and 5, 4 and 5, no nay, no nays.
Okay, any other questions, clarifications? All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to address this issue? If you'll state your name when you come to the, come over here.
My name's Craig Vabel. I'm the owner of the property, and I could give you a little bit more history on the property if you'd like. It was originally in Box Elder County. Due to tax purposes, you know, the boundary lines are drainage, but the section line was 8,000 west or Cache County or 400 west Box Elder County in front of the property. And that was changed back in, the early 70s, I believe. And my father owned and operated a business there since 1975 or so. And then I opened my business there in early 2000. And we've been operating, had a business license and operated our business there since then for 22 years. So, and the purpose of this rezone, originally we didn't realize we needed to rezone because I went into the planning office back in February, and I just wanted to subdivide that property off so we could sell the home. Dad passed away a few years ago, and we've been renting the home, and we've been wanting to sell the home. We've had some interested buyers, and so that was the purpose, just to sell the home. And so I went in there in February, and they pulled it up on the parcel viewer, and it said that the zoning was already RU2. So that conformed with the rest of the property, the subdivision, High Country Estates that my dad subdivided years ago. So we were going to do a simple subdivision, and so I hired a surveyor and did all that. And then when I met with the county planner, she looked into it and said, no, it's A10. So then we proceeded with the rezone, and it had the preliminary approval on the 28th of June, or on the 2nd of June, and now we're here to get the final approval. So.
Okay. Any questions for Mr.
The
Babel?
purpose of the rezone is just we want to sell the home, the residential home, maintain the operation of the business on the other parcel.
Okay. Very good.
So is that where it's an RU2? I guess you could still build a home on the back side of the property if you wanted to, couldn't you?
I imagine it's pasture now, so it'll remain as pasture for now. That's what we're planning on.
You could in the future. You could put a palace there if you wanted.
Yeah.
Right behind the old barn.
Yep. Yeah. Back. Yeah.
We're not cousins, but I know who you are.
I know you. Yeah.
His aunt is also my aunt, but
Yeah.
he's on the bottom side and I'm on the top. No, I'm on the bottom side and he's on the top side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remembered way back when you guys all went to Box Elder County, and
Right.
school district and all that, and then all of a sudden, here comes your dad in 10 years ago, and suddenly he's one of us, and I said, well, what do you like? Do you like cash or box elder? And he didn't dare answer it. Okay, I don't have any questions.
Okay, anyone else? Any of the council? Thank you, Mr. Fable.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Is there anyone else who would like to address this issue? All right.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing on the Fable Rezone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, now we have a public hearing on Ordinance 2022-21, the Gershon Ranch rezone. Tim, what do you have to give us on that?
All right, we'll get the projector working again. Thank you. So also for your consideration is a rezone request from A10 to RU5 applicable to this property, 33.3 acre property located at approximately 200 east and 9800 north. You see that it's about just under a quarter mile from the incorporated area of Richmond, which is about the rail line that you see along this north-south corridor. So not too far from the extent of Richmond, where Richmond City could extend and grow and offer services. And here's again a vicinity showing Richmond City's limits in proximity to the proposed subject property. There is access off of 9800 North and at least one, possibly two locations to provide for subdivision access. And this graphic, I think, is an important study in that it shows existing homes in black, and those are the homes kind of in the surrounding area and the average lot size of those homes within a certain distance. So the orange area, for example, is within a quarter-mile buffer, and you see the average lot size is 11.2 acres or 8 parcels, and then within a half mile, 11.6 acres. But also drawn in are these kind of gray small dots representing parcels that could be built upon for a single-family home. They're legal parcels that could be built. And that includes the current 3 homes that could be built on the 33 acres that are shown here. And so I just wanted to share in context an additional 3 potential lots with the rezone could be built within this area. So you see existing homes black, you see entitled by zoning homes in the gray, and the rezone would result in up to 2, possibly 3 more homes, depending on whether an all-weather surface gravel road was built or whether it be a paved public road. So we're talking about development. It's a question of how much more development, whether it be 2 or 3 homes above the entitled uses and zoning. So staff has received a number of comments in opposition for written statements as well as a petition, and there were a number of comments received during the Planning Commission meeting in opposition to additional homes, concerns of some of the intensive agricultural uses in the surrounding area, and perhaps incompatibility with additional residents to those uses. Do also want to point out that required notes on all subdivision plats, and that's whether it be A10 or RU5, includes Note D, which is highlighted and states that for agricultural uses, as a required note on the plat, that current and future property owners must be aware that they will be subject to the sights, sounds, and smells associated with agricultural activities, which are permitted uses in the agricultural zone and forest recreation zone. That's a note on be required on the subdivision plat, in addition to every zoning clearance that is issued includes similar language. The Planning Commission did not provide a recommendation. The recommendation to, or the proposal, the motion to propose approval did not pass. It was a split vote of 2-2, 2 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 abstention. So there were 5 of the planning commissioners present at the meeting. And so this comes to you with without a planning commission recommendation, and I did double check the staff report, and staff's recommendation is approval in this case, finding that it is compatible with the surrounding area and that the use of RU5 still allows for agricultural uses, residential uses, less intensive agricultural uses than the A10 zone, but nonetheless compatible, and the proximity to Richmond seems a fit for this zone. And that follows some of the dialogue with the Planning Commission that we feel to recommend this, to provide this recommendation. So any comments or questions, happy to respond at this time.
Nothing? Thank you, Tim. Okay. Again, this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone here that would like to address this issue? Please come up and state your name.
My name is Gretchen Neal Cardell. I am an owner of the Gershon Ranch, and I've never been on trial before. A little bit of history about the neighborhood. In 1993, my husband, Mark, was the first person down there to live. He bought 10 acres from Mr. Smith. I'm sorry, I don't remember his first name. And he was surrounded by Calvin Funk's properties, which he later sold the part in which we're discussing today. So while Mark was digging in roots, I was overseas playing. It's terrible. But by the year 2021, we got married, and the next year is when we bought our 93 acres at that time from Calvin Funk. He was always very open about everything that was going on with the property. We did not buy it with our eyes closed, and we decided to allow the Spackmans at that time to farm it for us. In that process, with our lifestyle of being outfitters as well as guest ranchers, and going back before Wyoming and back, we decided that we probably needed more grass hay than we needed to have grain. So we took over the farming at that point and started producing grass hay. We have sold several pieces at this time, and there are some people here which we have sold to them, as well as some of the existing people who are already there. We told them that we had to at this time of our lives, because we're looking at 60. And we've always been self-employed, but obviously this is for our retirement. We have children at home. We only have 2 more years, and then we're through that hurdle. The 33 acres, we would like to see it, our vision of it is to have 6 lots, each one of them a little bit over 5 acres, so that they could use their 5 acres in agriculture and build on the smaller portion of it, say 0.5 acres. My math isn't particularly good, but it would be a little bit over 5.5. That way, they could benefit from both kinds of the world. How we have prepared for this, obviously, is by talking many, many times and working with the staff at the Cache County Planning and Zoning. They have been more than helpful. Some things have changed with the things in which they were required, so therefore we had to adjust what we were going to do. We thought at first that it was going to be 10-acre agriculture, in which someone would just have their home and the rest of it would be however they chose to use their land. But going back through it a bit more, we have children that we were blessed to take care of that were not our own. It's an opportunity in which they themselves would be able to live the life in which all of us want, which is rural. But it doesn't have huge amounts of financial debt, because as we know, with rising cost of everything and inflation, It's a very, very hard thing to think that you are going to be in an apartment the rest of your life like they do over in Europe. So the benefits, obviously, are for my family and my extended family, my best friend, as well as her children, who they don't have much. So it was an opportunity in which to make those things. We, of course, always were going to comply with everything in which the county zoners told us to do. We have been in compliance, and they have given us a recommendation. So this housing in which will be provided, I think, is really important because people are moving here. It's a little bit cheaper than it would be in a city limit. It brings in people who are more resourceful, more independent, like horses or construction. They have talents which, enable them to be able to not only live in a place like that, but also to run their businesses. If I were to go down that road, just on those who are not the three big owners, which is Itty Bitty, you also have Lowers and you have Wrightwood, who have vested interests down there. Besides them, you have another 6 people who run businesses out of their homes or on their property. And that can be everything from construction as well as horse boarding. There's also a lot of horse training and a variety of things. These things are good. So between the 3 big businesses, farming, and 6 small businesses, you have a lot of industry in that area, and that's what it's for. I've said that it was for my retirement. Basically, what I'm actually more importantly worried about in the coming days, which are coming, and they're almost upon us, is more of a subsistence living. In 5 acres, you can have a lot of growth. You can have your victory gardens, you can have your chickens, you can have your horse, and you can also have goats or whatever you choose to be able to afford meat. So that was another reason for making them into smaller instead of 10. I don't know if you want me to address all the opposition.
No. Do you want that?
I do have a question on the drains.
On the,
We got a letter saying that there's land drains in the area, and so they're worried about homes being built on the property. Are you familiar with that?
I'm sorry, will you say that again? Sorry.
We got a letter talking about how there's land drains on the property. There was concern about how that might affect neighbors and also what it would do to the homes that are built there. Could you address that?
I wasn't aware of that until today because it was sent by a lawyer of Mr. Lowers. Therefore, it was kind of sneaky, which I think doesn't give us a lot of time to prepare. So this is totally the truth and nothing is rehearsed. Those lines, we know where most of them are. We've looked at the land and as well as where they are located. So on Mr. Hyde's place, he does not have anything that goes through his place. So nothing was divulged to him at that point. We have, as far as those that are interested in the railroad piece, I don't know what you would call that, as well as the Petersons, who also bought some land from us. These are things which they are notified of, they know it, and there are ways in which you can be able to track these things. Mr. Scott Richens, who is someone who owns water shares through that, as well as ourselves, and come to find out Mr. Lauer, which is very interesting because I would like to know what his numbers are as far as what his rights are through there. Because I think it's very interesting as far as where he put his dot. Those are in the Spackman's ponds. That's not anything in which I could probably trace it through those lines, but it also could be the ditch in which they have in the front of all of our properties, which will soon be like it will be put in pipe. So therefore, that won't be something in which he'll feel as if he's losing out on, and it will make it to the Spackman's Pond. There is a high water table. No one down there has, and if they do, they have a crawl space. They don't have basements. We all know that. And we all know we're on clay, which protects our water sources underneath. We also know, because I went to a meeting last week, it must have been Thursday the 7th, in which it was between all of you as well as the Planning and Zoning Committee. And that was very informative because the person who knows the most about water is Will Atkins. He stated that we have a very good aquifer, because I know that's been a problem or a worry or concern, but that your, let me see if I get the numbers right. You have to have, for your house, you have to have it down at least 130 feet. And then if you were to have anything like an agricultural pivot, that sort of thing, then it goes down to 200 feet. But he said that it was very, very good there, and that the clay was protecting us from any kind of contamination, which is a big relief for me because I know what comes down the hill. Is there anything else?
Anything else? Thank you very much. We appreciate the information.
May I make a request? Okay. I didn't quite know how to write this, so I had to write it down. It says, I would like to ask to be able to speak again at the end to address any issues that have been brought up during the public hearing that we have not addressed already, if that's all right with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to address this issue? Yes, sir. Please come up and state your name.
I am Kendall Crockett, and I represent Wrightwood Egg Farms. We have a few concerns. We've been pushed out of places already. We had a farm in Riverton that same scenario, and homes started moving in closer and closer. People didn't like the flies, they didn't like the smell. We're a farm. We had to move. And it's discouraging, and it's a financial burden, and we lost employees and they lost their jobs, and they had to go do employment. When we established our composting yard, we picked an area that we thought we could be good stewards of the land and also work well with neighbors. Unfortunately, property that is in question, a mile and a half away, you're going to smell it. You're going to have flies. And we already have these individuals who call yearly to tell us that we're doing something wrong and that it smells bad. As you're spreading manure on fields so that we can be sustainable and supply food to us and animals, yeah, it smells bad. There's no other way around it. And that's part of agriculture that we're trying to protect. And so that's a huge concern to us. We don't want to be pushed out again. We employ a lot of families in this valley, and we can't do that to everybody. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Alan Lauer, and I'm the owner of Lauer Foods in Richmond. And a lot of the property around this area I own, and I have secured a lot of land, close to 800 acres in this area, and I've done that to preserve agriculture. We've had talk this afternoon about open spaces. This is a perfect spot for open spaces, and we don't have to vote on it. or have any taxpayer money. We have invested in this for the future of agriculture and for the next generation. I'm third generation in a family meat business, and I had a supplier at my plant today from New Jersey, and I was talking to him about this, and he's seen this all across the country with his customers, as the town grows in around the meat plant is pushed out. And so I have been proactive and have bought all the land around me so that we could have a buffer. And this parcel is not compatible with agriculture, not only the groundwater, but for what I'm doing and with what Wrightwood is doing. And we have a next generation of farmers. The Spackmans have the next generation that is here, the Ballards. There are people who want to stay in agriculture. They don't want to be pushed out. And there is an attitude that all the land is going to be developed. The county isn't in the development business. We are paying taxes, and we want to continue our operations. We don't want to be pushed out, and we need your support.
Thank you, Mr. Lauer. Anyone else that would like to come forward? Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Steve Taylor. I represent my client, Scott Richards. He owns property to the west of this, and I'm fully supportive of the subdivision. Have no problem with it at all. It's responsible growth. It's right size acreage for that area. People could have a horse, a farm, whatever. Scott's done with the owner's permission, so has done extensive work on studying the drains. We've had surveyors in there. We know where most of the drains are, except for one or two that we still got to pinpoint. But we've got it all mapped out. We know exactly where they are. There's no reason that those lots couldn't go in there and those drains not even be affected. We've got, like I said, we have it all on GPS, and it's all mapped out, and the Cardells have agreed to possibly record that at the appropriate time so that it's there for future use. It won't affect the other landowners. I just bought a new home in Hyde Park, and I smell a farm down the road, and I love the smell. So that's a choice I make, and that's a choice that other people make when they buy these properties. So I just want you to know it's a great location. It's a beautiful part of this county, and we should give opportunities for other people to buy those lots and live there.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, please? You'll be next. Then I saw a hand back here. Please state your name.
So my name's Andrew Snar. So I live in the house, the 10-acre lot that's on the right of the 1,200-foot mark out there. So just left side of the tracks, that's where we live. So I think just clarifying, this isn't growth versus non-growth. It's the amount of growth that I think is what people are having conflictions on. So originally when he was putting in 10-acre lots, everybody said, good for you, it's your property, do what you will. And then even the two smaller lots that are just in front of the 9800 North this side, they even helped him and switched some properties so he could have better access and get power and things like that. But they were fine with the 10-acre lots. And I think we were all, because it kind of goes with the motif there, we're 10 acres and behind us is 10 acres. The Hyde's next to us is 10 acres and the Petersons behind that is 10 acres. And so it's a matter of everybody's fine with the 10-acre lots. So when it switched the rezoning of 5 acres to put more homes in and bring in more people, I feel like the vast majority of everybody that's out there, we moved out there to be in the country, and 10 acres just makes it more country than 5 acres. And so I think that's where I'd call it a beef, for lack of better terms, with the rezoning is, like I say, there's people that were making it happen and helping the Cardells to reach their goals, but it was when it went to the rezone and public hearing, we wanted to give public opinion on what we thought on it. So, and obviously the drainage isn't a concern for us, but just more homes means more wells. Is it going to affect everybody else's wells? Sorry, Mrs. Cardall, not Sister Cardall. She's on our board. So said it's a good aquifer, but is it quantifiable? That's what I'd rather see, is what are the quantifiable numbers of the support system of that aquifer versus, hey, it's pretty good, let's put a bunch of stuff on it. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a hand back there, and then a hand back there. You'll be next. Please state your name.
I'm Cassidy Jones, and I'm originally from Summit County. I just moved up here. I actually got the job at Ridgeline. I'm the ag teacher there, new ag teacher, first year. That's why I was at a small engines course, getting ready for school to start. So I actually wanted just to stand up here and say that these little lots, like, it would give me an opportunity to be here. I grew up on a 300-acre ranch in Summit County. We had cows, we had sheep, we grew our own hay and wheat and barley and oats, and that's what I loved about being here. And for me, I had 3 siblings, and of course the youngest brother got the whole ranch. So I'm left to kind of fend for myself. But I mean, I can't buy a 300-acre ranch. I can't even buy a 10-acre ranch, you know, a 10-acre little lot. So a little 5.5-acre lot that I could put a garden on and maybe a goat or 2 to eat the weeds and a horse back in the pen, that would be awesome for me and for the people that are moving in here, because there's people like me that want to be in agriculture, that love agriculture and everything about it, but they just can't afford those big lots. They can't afford to be in it. I mean, sheep was at the top dollar this year, but beef wasn't. And like, that's what we did. We raised sheep. We raised cows. That's how we made our living. And so I can't justify doing that. As a 22-year-old, I can't do that. But I can justify buying a 5.5-acre lot and doing a little bit of gardening and having a couple goats and breaking and training some horses, because that's what I do, is that I break and train horses during the summer when I'm not teaching. So I could, you know, have a couple client horses, and I could do something like that on a little lot. But I can't afford a 10-acre lot. I can't afford a 20 or 30 or 100 or a 300. So this would give me an opportunity to get my foot in the door, to kind of, and people like me, because there are people out there in Cache County and this Cache Valley that just love agriculture, but just can't get their foot in the door enough, and this would be the perfect opportunity to do it. And that would be an opportunity for me. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, back here. Please state your name.
William Mackin. I'm opposed to this rezone because I've been down there living on the other side of the tracks from the Snars right there for 20 years, and the drainage in that area down there, granted this year it's a good year, but there have been years that there have been water standing up against the railroad tracks on my side of the property until the end of June. Okay, the drainage down there is very, very poor. The gentleman that said that they knew where all those pipes were that drain all that, I don't believe that's true. We're finding them all the time. I have one going through my property. But there has been a backup of some sort right there. One of the neighbors actually on the railroad property actually blocked one of the accesses, or one of the drainages. It's still blocked. The railroad still won't cut it open. It still backs up. So anytime, any roads that go in there, there's a potential to block one of these drainage. And they're very brittle. They're old ceramic and tile drainage pipes to drain all those fields above us. And when you go into doing this right here, all these people are going to cause problems. Having those drainage pipes get basically broken, it backs up into my place. My crawl space fills up every single year except for the last 2 or 3. So it's farm ground. It should stay farm ground. I don't have a problem with 10 acres. And as you show here, you have every home down there is 18 acres, according to your information right here. Adjacent, 18.2 acres. Quarter mile, 11.2. Half mile, 11.6. I'm on 20. I think it'd be a real mistake. There isn't enough water down there. and what water we do have sits there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Let me see. We'll go with you. With you over here, and then the gentleman back there.
Hello.
Your
My
name,
name
please?
is Seneca Holt, and I live on 3rd East. I have a little 1.5 acre lot, which I probably is, and you know, that looks good for the people who are wanting to put in these smaller lots. Our septic tank just collapsed. And knowing that I don't have to worry about neighbors and what they are worried about with their water table, their aquifers, that was a huge relief to us. It's fixed now, and I'm really glad, but I would really be concerned with how that would sort of navigate some neighbors, and good fences make good neighbors, but what happens when it's not a fence anymore? What happens when it's a septic tank? We put our house in 23 years ago when we were in one of these terrible, terrible droughts like we are now. And the water table was so low, they had to dig forever to find water. Well, we were young and stupid, and we have had to fix our basement and redo our basement and pumps, and we have a fantastic system now, but the water table is high. That said, our 3rd year there, 2004, we believe, give or take, we had no water. Our well went dry. It was a family of 6 at the time, and we weren't even watering. I was a stay-at-home mom. I couldn't do a whole lawn and take care of, 4 littles all at the same time. So this was a huge undertaking for us to go in, dig the well deeper, throw the pump in deeper. Things have been okay since, but this is another one of those years where we are struggling for water. We are struggling for, are we gonna make it? Is this, do we let our crops go dry? What is the give and take here? I'm noticing that I don't have the luxury of owning water rights down there. I'm just on the well, but everybody's already on turns down there. The farmers are having to shut off their birds significantly earlier than they have in the past. And Calvin Funk is my grandpa. This land, it hurts my heart that these houses are going in anyways, but I really think that that Andrew hit the nail on the head. 10-acre lots is doable. 10-acre lots can be digested with a neighborhood, but smaller than that, and I recognize that I am not on a big lot, and again, that's Calvin Funk's issue. I had nothing to do with that. That is a little bit more of a struggle. Those drain fields that have been brought up numerous times, my grandpa put those in, along with a couple other farmers down there. There was such a significant flooding problem, but the water had to get off that land in order for it to be used, and it's still not completely usable in so many of those areas. This has made our little neighborhood down there, it's rough. Nobody waves to each other anymore. This isn't a kind Mayberry sort of place anymore. I mean, shy of flipping everybody off as they drive by, I mean, everybody's very tunnel vision, as I'm sure that you can imagine, because this is not your first rodeo either. But I go back to what Andrew said. We were good with 10 acres. 10 acres for what they were selling them at is over $6 million. Couple of few people can live on way less than $6 million for retirement, for family futures, for generations. That's a hard pill for me to swallow. That sounds a little bit like greed to me. I think that's probably what bothers me personally the most, is they have their cake and they're eating it too, and I am happy for them at 10 acres to be able to pass that money down to whomever it is, and the outside children that they have allowed to come into their homes. That is commendable. But this one bothers me. To make more out of less, that's not okay with me.
Thank you. We're going to have one comment here, one there, and then we're going to close the input. So you, yes, and this gentleman with the beard back there.
There's a lot of guys with the beards, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
My name is Brian Lundahl. I'm actually from Providence, but I own property in College Ward and in Benson. And I'm in support of this development, the requesting to going from 10 acres to 5 acres. I guess a lot for the same reasons. Someday I hope to sell my property, not in the near future, but someday it would become part of my retirement and things. But another reason I support it is because I have a son that we raised here in Cache Valley, and he really wanted his own home, his own place. And he looked, and I helped him look, and we looked together, and he found the closest place he could find was Malad, Idaho. Malad's a wonderful place, but we wish he was closer. He can't come home so much. So I wish that there was a place that he could afford, a little place what we're talking about, like 5 acres, where he could have, his wife or girlfriend breaks horses and things as well. It'd be nice if they had places to do that, even on my ground. Here on my other properties in Benson and College Ward. But I guess I just want to go on record and say I think you should approve this 5 acre lot over the 10 acre ones.
I'm Scott Richens. I own 160 acres west of the Cardalls, and the lifeline to my farmland runs through those drain fields. Without those, that property's not worth anything. Mark and Gretchen have been really good. And I've tried to do my part and be a good neighbor, but we've GPS surveyed. We've tried to find what we could. I think the Cardalls are willing to sign this and make it so I have access to these drain fields. My biggest fear is I trust Mark and Gretchen, but what happens when they sell to somebody else? I gotta have that water. And so I'm pretty concerned about that. Kind of wanted to make a comment about, the nice ag lady and some of this stuff, we all paid our dues and nobody gave us anything. And why should we degrade our quality of life because you need to be more successful to pay for what you want? So anyway, I'm concerned about the drain fields, but what happens when Cardalls sell this property, then who am I dealing with? So how do we protect it? I guarantee you we did the best we could to map it out. We spent a lot of money doing it. I've replaced a drain field that was leaking and tried to do my part, but we don't know where they're at.
I'm a little confused. The water that runs out of the drain fields is your irrigation water?
Correct. Fills my ponds, and then we pump an irrigator fields. So without a breakdown of those drain fields.
You need the flow to fill your pond so you can water down below, and that's the way it is all over the West.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, Mrs. Cardell, we told you we'd give you some closing remarks. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and we'll go from there.
Can I stand indoor?
Okay.
I'm her husband.
All right.
Maybe unless we get home and back this up.
Okay, your 2 minutes has started.
Mark Cardell. I'd like to address, I guess, these drain lines. The They are brittle, but going over them, they've run farm equipment over this for years and years. We drive over them. They're going to break just because they've been in there since 1970. But they are replaceable. Scott and I replaced one, and that's why the water's backing up. I have photos on my phone that is sitting on Mr. Lauer's place, and it's been broke for 4 years. In his letter to the council, he showed concern about all this water and what's going to happen if he can't get water, but yet it's broken and sitting on his place. There's a great big puddle there, and it's been sitting there for 4 years broke. I don't know where the $6 million come from. I got to talk to my real estate man because he's holding out on us. We're not selling it for that much money. Calvin, he wanted the development. He knew this land. He worked it for a long time. When I went down there, I would love to have the time to express how kind he was in helping me get established down there. Where the snars are is because of Calvin. Where the hatches and the Hunsacres are is because of Calvin. Where the Holts are is because of Calvin. He wanted the development. He opened his arms for these people to come in and develop the land. With Wrightwoods, if you drew a half-mile circle around this place, there's been 13 homes built, and they're still coming down. Farming's still going on. Same with Lauer's. It was interesting. We were in Richmond City, and they were.
Finish up. It's been 2 minutes.
They were up there putting in 11 doors, but that place is a lot closer to Lauer's than what these 3 little homes are. But he wasn't up there protesting that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Move to close public hearing.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, I want to thank everyone for being here and for your comments on this. All right, thank you. We're going to move on for a public hearing, Ordinance 2022-22, an ordinance increasing the salaries of the Cache County Executive, Clerk/Auditor, Recorder, and Treasurer.
I don't know if anybody's going to speak to it, or we just had to open the public hearing.
Yeah. What's up, Paul?
Nothing, I was just speaking to it. Maybe it's just going to be a public hearing, if anybody wants to. Did you hope to have a public hearing? There's going to be no presentation.
Amy is out.
Amy gave the presentation.
Amy gave her presentation at the workshop. And she sent us, she said she sent it to everyone.
Maybe have these folks sit around.
Okay, good.
We'll take their time.
Yeah.
You mentioned the public hearing time and that nobody comes.
Okay. All right, we are having a public hearing on increasing the salaries of the Cache County Executive, Clerk/Auditor, Recorder, and Treasurer. Is there anyone here that would like to address that?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing on Ordinance 2022-22. All right. Was there any? Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? And that was an aye on my part.
Madam Chair, may I, point of personal privilege, ask that side conversations be taken out into the hall, please?
Could we have the conversations taken out in the hall, please? If you'd like to stay, you're welcome to stay, but if you want to have a conversation, please take it out in the hall.
Food service.
All right. Thank you. All right, we're going on to pending actions. An ordinance 2022-18, an ordinance amending section 8.04 of the Cache County Code regarding food service to update the referenced Utah Code section. We have Mr. Luthi on this.
I presented this at the last council meeting with some explanation. I'll go over that again if you want it, but won't unless you ask. I noted at the time, though, that as I had been reviewing the language, that I thought that there may need to be an edit. In subsection A of the language for section 8.04010 food service, that would amend this to the current language says, and Utah Code section 5-15-5. That ought instead to be Utah Code section 26-15-5, comma, as amended. So I'd suggest that there be a motion to amend the ordinance to say at that point, Utah Code section 26-15-5, comma, as amended. And with that, I'd recommend passage to bring county code in line with current state code on this matter.
Can I ask a question, John, on
Yeah.
B? It says requirements and rules will be enforced by the Bear River Health Department. We've got Utah Code, so the requirements and the rules aren't going to be promulgated by the Bear River Health Department.
Correct.
We still do all that. They just are
They're the enforcement arm.
so that if there needs to be changes or something, then we're not creating a little administrative state outside of.
No, this is all state law, and then Bear River Health Department is the enforcement arm.
Okay.
They wouldn't be making rules and regulations.
Just wanted that clarification.
Okay. Council?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we go ahead and waive the rules and pass.
We don't need it.
We don't need to waive the rules on this one because it's pending.
So I'm lost. What am I doing wrong?
You just need to make a motion to whatever you want to do.
You're saying I don't have to waive the rules?
Right.
Yeah, I won't waive the rules. I
Yeah.
just make a motion that we pass this.
With that amendment? Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 2022-18 with the amendment of the Utah Code section changing from 5-15-5 to 26-15-5, correct, John? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, ordinance 2022-19, an ordinance amending section 2.12.230 of the Cache County Code regarding closed meetings to update the referenced Utah Code section.
This ordinance was before you at the last meeting as well. I provided an explanation. There were some questions. I gave some answers. There was a motion to pass it. The motion didn't receive a second. There was no one that wanted to say why. It's back before you. I'm happy to answer questions. If there are questions, I'd still recommend passage.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to strike item E from this. I'll speak to that motion. There's a lot of different things in the code, and this is just one of them, and I don't really feel like it's necessary. We can just go to state code and look up the reasoning. So I would make a motion to strike E from this proposed change to ordinance.
John, would you like to address that?
I have no objection to that motion. As I said at the last meeting, I think the whole of this code section could be stricken from code because you have to follow state code anyway. The reason for this section, if there is one, is if members of the public are looking to county code for what you do in closed meetings rather than going to the state code. This essentially provides a summary of what's in state code, and if that additional part of the summary seems problematic, I don't have any opposition to not including that. I think it doesn't change what you would have to do. It's all still consistent with state code, but don't feel strongly either way. The thing that really ought to be done is updating the reference to state code to make it current.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a motion.
Further reason is state code also says if you're having a executive session, you can also keep detailed minutes, but we don't include that in this ordinance. And so if the purpose of having it there is to let the public or the council know what type of record needs to be kept, it's missing that part. So I would rather that people just go look it up in state code to get the full thing that applies. And that's why I make that motion to strike E.
Okay. Rest of council? We have a motion.
I'd second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2022-19 with an amendment to strike item E. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we are down to resolution 2022-17, a resolution amending the 2022 Cache County budget. Cameron, did you want to address anything on that? No? Okay. Discussion, council?
Well, we had some questions
Okay,
that I thought we maybe get answers.
okay.
One was that we postponed it because we were questioning the elections, money.
Yes.
And who's going to talk on behalf of that?
Well, Amy is out, and so she said she was going to send us some information, but I'm not seeing it. Has anybody seen it?
Didn't Jeff send all of us multiple pages of information on why that was done? I remember reading some information on that.
On
Jeff?
which thing?
Yeah.
The art
It's on the lease of the building, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Needing the extra money.
Yeah, that's what the request was for, that he gave explanation as to what the money was spent for in the lease of the upgrade of that lease. I remember seeing that in my email. Nobody else received it?
So.
Not that I can remember.
Well, I guess we postpone it for another week, another meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
And what we did, this here still has, it still reflects the 4.5 million to go into miscellaneous and general. And I know we voted on that last time to do away with that, but it still shows it there.
No, you don't have an updated document. That's been stricken, and so you have voted on that already and considered that an issue already resolved.
Here on this,
Yeah, this yeah.
17. My apologies. I didn't send an updated document. I just made notes on your decision on that item.
Okay.
As well as there was the grant for $34,000, so you did vote on and approve that. So I've made notes on both of those items and taken action on those. The rest of it is what the meeting is for tonight.
And I had a question on building and grounds of an additional 100,000. What will that be used for?
Which number's that?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm just looking at page 3.
page 3. Okay.
Okay, page 3.
Buildings and grounds.
We don't need that, so I'm going to strike that too then, if anyone's not going to say anything.
I believe that's the space needs analysis.
Yeah.
Do we have any
Space needs
idea,
analysis.
a bid for that? I mean, are we just guessing, 100,000 bucks?
That was coming from ARPA, wasn't it?
Yes. That was ARPA.
Dave, you made a motion, right?
I seconded.
Well, I would like an explanation, but if I don't get an explanation, then I'm not going to vote for it. So I don't think it's...
Yeah, it's for the space needs analysis off the ARPA funds. And it was a study, for renovations and upgrades here, but that's what it was for.
In relation to the question about the cost, we haven't put it out to bid yet until funding is approved. We have made a couple of inquiries, and it'll cost between $50,000 and $100,000.
Do we always approve money before we get a bid for a project?
Yeah.
We do? Did that happen when we did the animal shelter, or did the sheriff have a pretty good idea what it was going to cost, and then we?
He had some estimates.
Yes.
We had it.
I'd like to see some estimates too, because that's a lot of money. And I'm also concerned if we spend the money to do that, and we're gonna be like, well, we're gonna have to build something now because we spent the money.
Well,
we wanna build.
I would move to remove that $100,000 until we get an official bid.
Second.
That's for.
Second that motion as well.
Okay. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we remove the $100,000 until we get some more information, correct, on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and we're sure the $4.5 million has been removed from there, Cameron? Okay, could we get an updated one?
Yeah, whatever that final discussion is, I'll update the document and say this
Okay.
is what it was.
Anything else, council?
I have questions on the matching funds needed, I'm looking on page 3 for the
Page three.
rodeo arena and the fairgrounds, and I think on page 2 as well with the event center. I don't remember that we've had to do that matching funds before. Don't we usually just hold it till the next year?
I did look back at those applications, those RAPS applications, and they are actually, according to Bart, they are already in his budget to cover those. So where are these being transferred? He said, he said those matching monies, he already had it in his budget to cover those.
Let me double check for sure though. Which number are you talking about?
10, 11, and 12. Hopefully those are right.
So these that were related to wraps and restaurant tax are transfers, so the awards have been approved. This is transferring the awarded money, and so if he needed matching money, that fund should already be in his budget. This is the actual award money that he's matching to, if that makes sense. So we're transferring it from wraps tax fund or restaurant tax fund, and we're moving it to the general fund for his department to
Some of
use.
those did have matching money that he put in
Required, but he would have
in
had
RAPS
it.
applications, but he said he had that in his budget.
Match, yeah, so he's not asking for new dollars
That was my
to
question,
match
was it
with.
new dollars?
He's,
I
this
followed
is
up on
transferring that
and Mark said
over.
it was taken care of, but he already had it in his budget, so that should not be new.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else?
Well, we still have a motion on the floor that we wanted to wait.
Okay.
Through this because we were still unsure about information on the election request, election budget request.
Plus the salary, right? The premium
And the
pay?
salary and
Yeah,
the
the
premium
premium
pay.
pay. All right, so there's a motion and a second that we wait to act on Resolution 2022-17 until we can have more information on those two topics. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
So this will go on the next agenda.
We'll go on the next agenda. And we'll get a better clarification from Jess, and we'll ask Amy to be here on that. She apologized, but she apparently has a wedding tomorrow, or is that correct?
I was teasing her about a wedding. She's out of town.
Oh, she's out of town,
And
okay.
I did get an email from her. Maybe the rest of you didn't, that had the presentation.
And just for, you know, your information as a council, as I'm looking at this, when we talk about elections, and this is why I'm glad we can look at Cassell. The budget for materials and supplies, which it appears is what that request comes in for, this year was $384,200 in that expenditure account. there is still 263,000 to spend already. So before, we got $250,000 before we run out of money in materials in elections.
So we do need to have some explanation.
It is, yeah, 4170-200.
200. So I'm not super familiar, but that account I know will be used a lot with the elections in the fall. So I know much of that probably is spoken for already.
Well, I mean, but that's what we're looking at, right? I mean, it's, you're looking to say, I need more money, and we look at it and go, there's $250,000 to go. How much have we used in past years? I think that's the kind of detail we're looking at, right? Is to say, you know, if we spend $250,000 to mail out election ballots, you know, we did already do a primary, we've only spent 100, you know, does a general election cost 2.5 times that? If it does, then, and we need to add more stuff in, that'd be great, but before I give somebody almost 100,000, you know, a good portion of money, not almost 100,000, but a good portion of money, and they're already sitting on over $250,000. I'm a little hesitant, especially when it could be used anywhere you want it.
Right. Where this is delayed, then again, are there any other questions on any other item now, or if comes up, please let me know, and we'll try to coordinate that for next time.
So next time you're gonna send us an updated?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and update this. I won't change it in the numberings, but I will mark which ones you have taken action on and what the action was. So
that'll be helpful.
I did have one on the trails management, that $310,000.
Again, which number again?
What page is that, Dave?
210, Dave?
310,000 to trails management. Isn't that a REPS transfer?
Sorry, what number are you on?
It's page 6, I think, isn't it, Dave?
Looking at the resolution itself.
Okay. Trails management, right. Fund on page 6.
Well, on the detail, it says 210, so now I'm confused.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So there would be more than one issue. That's probably, let me do this. What are you looking at?
I'm just looking at 310 right here, the trails management on page 6 of the resolution.
6 of 21.
Yeah,
And if that's a culmination of.
actually, 5?
Yeah, page 5 on the
Yeah,
document,
yeah.
6 of 21.
Okay.
I can answer your question. File things.
Just as FYI, while Cameron's looking at that, Gina did get that email from Amy, but I haven't gotten it yet. It's updating. Yeah. Yeah.
Is this the one you're talking about?
So that is a $210,000 which is a RAPS award for the 800 West Regional Trail Face, and then there's a restaurant tax award for $100,000 that is the Deep Canyon Trailhead.
I thought it was a REPS.
Yeah. So again, both of those projects approved already. This is transferring those funds over.
Thank you.
Yep.
And it's 310, correct? Okay. All right, anything else? All right. I think we've voted on that, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, moving down to 11. Ordinance 2022-20, the Fable Rezone. An ordinance amending the county zoning map by rezoning 4.36 acres from the agricultural A10 zone to the rural 2 RU2 zone. Tim?
Is this one we waive the rules on?
It is.
All right, I'll waive the rules so we go ahead and approve ordinance 2022-20, the Fable Rezone, and that we approve it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 2022-20, the Fable Rezone. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, now we're down to the ordinance 2022-21, Gershon Ranch Rezone. An ordinance amending the county zoning map by rezoning 33.3 acres from the agricultural A10 zone to the rural 5 RU5 zone.
I've got a couple of some questions on that. Is that a lot's kind of been brought up with, you know, that we talk about, it's our retirement, and, you know, and I don't want to get personal, things like that. And one thing in the county is that we don't do things just to guarantee someone's financial gain. I think that needs to be said. We do not, that is not our prerogative, that is not our ambition, and shouldn't, to me, I'm one of those that should never even be said. The other thing, I was a little disheartened by the presentation. In your presentation, you drew it all out, and you had all these options and all these things, kind of like you're trying to sell that to us. I guess I'm more just present us the facts and move on. And so, and you mentioned that the opposition, I know I happened to be at that planning and zoning when they talked about that, and yeah, it was a 2-2 vote, but there was only one opposition letter that was actually put up, and some of them looking around like maybe, hopefully that your planning and zoning board, did they have access to all of them?
I believe they did, and some of them arrived, we sent them forwarded as quick as we could. So but some of them I put on the screen, some of them were just in their packets to read.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't think it was, there were comments that were made in there that it will change the area, it will change the area, which it will. You go from A10 to A5, it definitely changes that whole area, and I'm not a big buyer of that, because that's dramatically going to change it. There was also, we keep hearing this definition of ag, and pony and one goat and things like that in the backyard. I'm kind of offended in a lot of ways that that's now the new definition of ag. I think that there is agritourism and things like that, and I think we start throwing everything now as agritourism rather than ag production and ag, what agriculture really has a deeper meaning to feed the American people and the world. I don't think very many of us are going to all chew on one goat and a horse. And so I'm not really that much in favor of changing all of this, that area. I've been down through that area, I've looked at it. There are a lot of farmers down there. They have water filings on every one of those drains down through there. They require that to actually pump out of that to be able to, and yes, those drains go up through a lot of different fields. But no, we don't know where they're at, and we start putting a lot of development and everything in there. I'm just sitting there going, yes, they're going to be severed. Yes, there's going to be problems. Yes, there's going to be lawsuits. Yes, there's going to be complaints. And history shows that how the county takes complaints is kind of just cowtail to them, and to a point to where, we start changing things and start putting it against the people. The sights, sounds, and smells of ag seem to be not as really what sights, sounds, and smells of ag really are. Because when someone starts complaining, to them it's a big deal, others it isn't. But the other thing I wanted to bring up, though, is that I had it written down in here. Well, was your analysis here, I thought, was very good on the average parcel size within those areas, and everything's over 10 acres. And, anything that's already under that, there was a few little smaller 5-acre pieces that are still there, but they've always been that way. And so I guess they'd be grandfathered to be able to still put a home anyway?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to comment and for your comments. And I think what the intent of this graphic was twofold. And one was to show the average density of the current homes built, which are the black dots. But also recognizing, I think, more clearly in this meeting than was portrayed in the last meeting, what's currently entitled for development. And I think that that's something that we intended for the decision-making body as well as the public to understand that there are entitled lots that could be built that would change the density once built. So that analysis changes each time a unit goes from gray entitled to black developed. And so we just wanted to put into context the relative number of potential home increase with the potential.
If this zoning changed.
If the zoning changed.
Could look like.
That's correct.
Did you say entitled?
Yeah.
In terms of zoning entitlement.
I disagree with that.
Subject to meeting the standards of development.
I thought the way I read the chart is it shows all these parcels that don't have homes on them, and they're still parcels that are, well over 10 acres. And so there isn't a parcel that's buildable that doesn't have a 10 acre. Is that correct?
There are parcels that as of 2006 that are less than 10 acres were established as legal lots and developable lots. Thus entitled is the term that I use to describe that. Maybe there's a more preferable term, but that there are, and we are working with property owners seeking to configure their parcel lines and share private roads and such to access those properties. So it's based on very real understanding of the potential here.
And I want to make sure I understand. So those gray boxes represent potential homes on the map. Those are lots that do not have to be rezoned. They already can be built on, and they are less than 10 acres.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
If I could also just add that part of the 5-acre density, we've looked in joint work meetings at the potential for cluster development. That option is available to the applicant under A10, and if rezoned to RU5, there could be the option to cluster. Sounds that that's not of interest to the applicant based on their current plan for 5-acre lots, but that option of developing on, say, 40% or 30 to a certain percent of the ground and reserving 15 to 20 acres for agricultural remainder. That's part of our analysis. We feel that the 5-acre density still provides for that option, whether that's more of a requirement in the future for increasing density. In order to increase the density, that's part of the general plan exploration that we'll be
Okay, I'm
exploring.
confused with what Gina the answer she just got. Tim, how many parcels there that are around 5 acres that if people come in and requested a building permit would be given a building permit without having to go through all of this craziness?
Without having to rezone, but required to meet development standards in terms of the roads and so forth.
You have to do the roads and you have to do all that. But how many of them are in a position that when the time comes, they can come into the development office and say, okay, we're ready to build our home, and we are somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 acres, and you say, okay, when you prove up on a road and you prove up on the different things that you have to do in order to get a building permit, how many homes are in that area, or how many parcels of land in that area could all of a sudden build a home?
Well, so thank you for the opportunity to clarify, and you can see, I'll just count, the two fronting 9800 North, and then going south of those, another 2 or 3, if not a total of 6, are in play in terms of working together to align parcels and share a private road. And it just depends on how they choose to work together to provide access and share the cost of a private road. But there are more parcels, it's just some of them have more attainable access than others, or feasible access than others.
So what I'm to understand from what we're just saying right now is that area, right now, it's not built out, but in the future, without any additional coming in like this family has done to rezone it, we could see many, many, many more black dots in that area. Is that not right?
There's no RU5s there now, right?
You could see these gray dots turn to black dots.
Potential if they become RU5.
But those are potential under the A10 zoning, but the acreage is less than 10 acres because of the 2006 establishment of legal parcels applied to parcels 10 acres and greater as well as 10 acres and less.
So we're talking from what Dave just said, there's in that in a a mile, there's only a potential of about 4 that can be built on. Is that without?
Directly in that area.
Yeah, to the east, that it would appear that there could be 5 additional and maybe more depending on how cooperative the owners work together to provide access through. Yep.
You see, the one thing that the council has got to take in consideration is there's many people that desires to come to Cache Valley and build, and we've got to take that into consideration. And one thing that I think we need to always remember, and that is the way you protect and not let anybody build by you is you have to purchase it like the Lowers have. But if you have not got that, the interesting thing is the Lowers will always say, well, we want this and we want to protect our business and whatnot. But all they need to do is have one generation and divide that wheat plant all up. And suddenly you got a whole bunch of little teeny tiny fragments of their family. And if you don't believe me, just look around you as how that has happened. The reason why you get in the south end of Cache Valley is that's where the pioneers all settled. It wasn't up in Lewiston, it wasn't up in Richmond. It was down there in the area that I'm in. That's where Mons Fort was, that's where all that was. Now we've gone through 5 generations, and those parcels at one time that were fairly large are now down to 3 and 4 and 5 acres. We're just a couple of generations away from it. Up in the north end of the valley as those families subdivide and the children all, do their thing. It's a thing that evolves. And I'm happy for the Lowers and that they're able to protect that, and they've got a good business and they're, good for them. But it happens very, very quickly where a 100-acre farm has 7 children, and you divide that 7 ways, and all of a sudden you don't have a 100-acre farm. You've got 100 acres divided by 7, which puts you back into the size that we're talking here now. It's just a generation away. And so I kind of think why I'm leaning here is that the people that's got the 10 acres and everything's 10 acres in that, this is probably the first request to really, really divide it down to 5 acres, and so maybe I'm not quite ready to do that yet. But it will come, and it won't be that far away. And so...
Oh, I'm sorry, Gordy, are you done?
I'm done, go ahead.
Okay,
I made way too much noise.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm a little bit confused by your map, because I went to the GIS just to try to get a better idea of lot size. And it's different than what you have. Some of those look like they haven't been subdivided, and one is like a 10.71, and one's about 10, and the only one I could find that was smaller, that looked like what you showed, was a 9400 North, and it was a 6-acre. I'm just trying to get a feel. It looks like the council is really trying to maybe base this decision off exactly what's surrounding, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what is surrounding.
Sure. I don't have the lot sizes identified to the east.
Okay.
But it's just the number of those lots that as of 2006 are legal under the A10 zone, whether they're 10 acres or smaller. They're legal lots for building so long as they meet development standards.
Okay.
So I just put a gray dot, I just put a gray dot on each of those such that there was recognition that there is other development potential in this area, but did not mean to imply that those will be 5-acre lots.
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate that.
Well, to me, with what you just said right there, I think that, I really don't think this area is conducive for A5, or it should be the RU5, RU2, any of that, and therefore I would move that we, for denial of this rezone.
I will second your motion, and I agree with you.
You guys gotta waive the rules.
Waive the rules, Dave.
Oh, wait, yeah, let's see.
Yeah, would you waive the
Yep,
rules?
I think waive the rules. I'm going to waive the rules and for denial on this rezone.
I still second it.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we waive the rules and deny the application on ordinance number 2022-21, amending the county zoning map by rezoning 33.3 acres from the agricultural A10 zone to the rural 5 RU5 zone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay. And one abstention.
And I
Okay.
voted against it.
You voted against it?
You didn't
Oh,
ask
yeah,
for
that's right, I didn't.
opposition.
Any against?
Me.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to have, I'd like to have a little more research done on this area to find out how much potential we got.
We have 4 in the motion carries.
Okay.
So,
That was me, it's a
is
tough one.
that the way you're feeling?
That's why I abstained, it's just
Okay.
tough.
Why didn't you vote no? That way you don't have to be a name in the paper, do you?
I believe you, Gordon, you and I have been in the paper enough. I figure we're trying to stay out of it.
All right.
As you well know, you and I will always have a discussion.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. All right, we're moving on to,
Keep your friends intact.
I don't have any friends.
okay. We're moving on to ordinance 2022-22, an ordinance increasing the salaries of the Cache County Executive, Clerk-Auditor, Recorder, and Treasurer.
You know, we had the,
That's the thing that's so interesting is when you study the area that I live in. And every time I record
so that's all right, that's all right. I know, I mean, Amy came in, did the presentation for us. I asked for this to be on. I'll make part of this really easy, just to get it started, the reason that I brought it up. I'd move to waive the rules and divide the resolution so as to consider the treasurer separately. And let me make sure I get this right. So as to consider the treasurer separately and approve the raise recommended by the Compensation Committee of $99,570 to $99,575 effective January 1st,
Effective January 1st of what?
2022.
2022, so retroactive.
So then when you're dealing with is the
Treasurer. I just was dividing the
You're not
question
gonna
just to deal with the
other-
treasurer.
The other three.
That's right.
I'll second that, if that's a motion.
It is. It was a motion to waive the rules, make the motion to divide that, and consider that separately.
All right, there's been a motion to waive the rules and amend the ordinance, increasing the salaries of the Cache County Executive, Clerk-Auditor, Recorder, and Treasurer to consider the treasurer separately and not consider the others. Is that?
As far as the initial motion, yes.
Okay. Yes.
Was that to amend the ordinance
Or divide the question. Divide the question.
Divide the question.
Divide the question? Okay.
But you weren't asking divide the question and approve, just divide the question, correct?
Just divide the question and approve the salary for the
So
treasurer.
divide the question and approve the salary for the treasurer.
So shall I restate that again?
I think I understand that.
Okay.
May we have further discussion on the motion,
Yes,
please?
yes, please do.
I passed out to the council an idea that I had about some criteria that we might want to set as policy or even use tonight as we determine how to set the elected official salary. I know last time there was some angst about whether the council was being fair, and I thought that maybe it would be helpful if we had a list or we had some criteria to look at. This is just a brainstorm, we don't have to do this, you know, but these are some of the things that I came up with that I thought might be helpful. The elected officials' demonstration of efficiency, like how will they manage money, their professionalism, honesty, integrity, professional competence, the length of time they've been in office, their comparable salaries, their required certification, like last time that's what we did, we looked at the required certification and that's how we made that determination to raise those salaries. Whether the official is a working official or whether they're managerial official, like do they come and do the work or do they just come and manage? And the hours they work, like whether they're full or part-time, or I know in past councils 7 years ago, we had an issue with an elected official who came to work, I think, just in the afternoons for a couple hours, even though they should have been full-time. And then the idea that we further consider whether the official performs all the duties which are necessary to properly maintain their office, devotes their best efforts on behalf of the people of Cache County, and complies with all the reasonable policies and procedures in state and county code. and then maybe other factors that demonstrate integrity, reliability, and service. We used to have shirts that said Cache County Integrity, Reliability, and Service, so that's where I came up with that. So I just wanted to put this out there to the council and, you know, just, I guess, food for thought if we want to use it or not use it, or anyway, there you go. There's an idea.
I'm sitting here and I'm reading that and I understand it, but I don't know how you get to that from a standpoint, because an elected official is voted by the citizens. I don't want to sit and question what the citizens' majority vote did. We have a committee who has come in and said that this was done, and I hope that each of us are listening to the committees that all of us serve on. Because as a budget committee, we put time in, as a fair and a rodeo committee, we put time in. So this is interesting, but I think we get into some weeds, is my personal opinion. I have read some letters and had some opinions on different things about elected official, but I think that goes back to, this is my personal opinion, that that's the citizens' vote and that's how you get that in and out. So I understand what you're saying, but as I sit here, I don't want to second guess or be undermining what a citizen has voted for a person to be in.
I kind of go along with Nolan's thought here. We all serve on committees, and in those committees, we research things out to quite a bit of extent. And a lot of the things that you shared there, Gina, we discussed in the compensation committee, and we do it for hours. You know, we have several meetings, we have several discussions, and Amy goes to great extent in gathering all the information from other counties. And what we do on the committee where we compensate people is we try to make a situation where this is what this individual in this position is being compensated for in other counties. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we don't try to be the leader in salaries, and we don't try to be the last one in salaries. We try to be fair in the middle. And so Barbara can share her thoughts on this, but when you start doing what we have discussed a little bit earlier, then if there's animosities towards different elected officials, those things all start to come to the surface in a hurry. And I'm more of the opinion that what we should do is, unless they're way out of reason, I think of the compensation committee with all the research, and we have county employees on that compensation committee, as well as private citizens that's had that type of information. The one that we got is a private citizen. He's involved in Hiram in all of their things that is done. And he's the one that was, you know, he was quite strong in the event that we need to bring the county up to be within the medium of what everyone else is. I don't know, did we vote on Paul's thing, or we went ahead and we haven't? We haven't. I'm of the opinion, and I'll make a motion, we'll see where it goes. I made this motion way back when we singled the 3 or 4 people out in the elected officials and said we're not going to pay them that much. I made a motion that we follow the recommendation of the compensation committee and put everyone in to what is determined a fair compensation for the job that they did. And I would like to make that same motion again, that we go ahead at midterm, we bring them up to the level that was recommended by the compensation committee, and see if it gets a second and see if it'll go yay or nay. So that's my motion right there.
One motion first.
Council Chair.
We did have a motion and a second on the first part, so I think, and I did not ask for a vote on that, correct?
Yeah, we were discussing the
We were just discussing, but I have one thing to say. While I think this is a really good idea, Gina, I'm totally in agreement with Nolan. The people are the ones who elected these people to the office. I don't think it's our responsibility as a council to, I don't know, I'll call it micromanage. And how do we determine if, you know, somebody's professional? You know, your idea of professional may be different than my idea of professional. yeah, we can look at certification, but different things like that. But I think we need to leave that up to the constituents, and if they don't like what the people are doing, they voice their opinion and they do not re-vote them in, or they vote them out and they vote somebody new in. So I'm agreeable to what you say, Nolan. That said, we had a motion on the table that on ordinance 2022-22, and what are the words that were used?
Waive the rules and divide the resolution so as to consider separately the treasurer, and then we can consider all the other elected officials, and consider the treasurer for the raise recommended by the compensation committee effective January 1, 2022.
Okay.
I'm still
So you're making
confused.
it retroactive?
Yes.
So is the motion to just consider it, or is the motion to divide the question and approve it for that one elected official?
Correct.
So the motion is to
Divide the resolution.
divide the resolution.
So as to consider the treasurer separately.
Okay.
And approve the recommended salary from the budget committee effective January 1, 2022.
Thank you.
All
For
in
the
one
treasurer.
motion.
All in one
Okay,
motion.
all in one motion.
Thank you for the clarification.
For the treasurer.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
No,
Nay for me.
a nay for me as well.
Well, we still got to deal with my motion, don't we?
And I'll second your motion.
What was your motion, Gordy?
Okay,
My
so,
motion- All right, we let that one pass.
Okay.
So the way it is the treasurer has
It
been.
didn't pass.
It didn't pass.
yeah, it didn't pass.
There were 4 nays, weren't there?
I was a nay.
Barbara, I was a nay, weren't you a nay?
Yeah, but,
So there's 4.
oh, I thought it passed.
No,
No.
It didn't
no.
pass. And so now we're back
To
to
your
combined in the 4. Okay,
Okay, what's your motion, Gordy?
my motion is that we go back to the original motion that I made back when we were considering this, and that was the recommendation from the compensation committee that we compensate the elected officials at the level that was recommended all the way through. And I guess now that needs a second.
And I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the salaries of those officials that were denied the increase, and approve that now and make it retroactive to January 21st, 2022.
Either way on that.
Okay.
But, okay, retroactive.
Retroactive. If you don't want it retroactive,
I say
state
no.
that. What's
They say
that,
no
Nolan?
to. They've lived without it.
Say
Okay, no, okay, very good.
Beginning what day?
Yeah, beginning
July
what
1st?
day?
July 1.
So let me restate that. Moved and seconded that we, is that an amendment to this ordinance?
Well, and I'd like to say we're following the committee's recommendation.
Okay.
I hope we
Okay, that we are going to follow the.
tabs of the committees that people serve on and stuff, so.
Thank you. We are going to follow the committee's recommendation that we approve the increase of salaries for the Cache County Executive, Clerk-Auditor, Recorder, and Treasurer. No, that treasurer do we include the treasurer? And include the treasurer effective July 1st, 2022. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there discussion?
Oh, yep, please do. Yeah, discussion, Dave.
Yeah, I'm not. I find it very interesting. You know, are we writing a wrong? Did we, you know, do you think we're writing a wrong that was done? Plus, do we have to have a budget opening for this when it's approved? To be able to
Good
transfer these
question.
dollars?
Yeah, that's a good question.
The other question is, was there a motion in the last meeting to set the public hearing from last time? Because you're supposed to have a motion to set a public hearing. I didn't see it in the minutes.
I didn't either.
But, you know, I don't know how
But
nitpicky we're
But
gonna
even
be.
that, last fall, when we were doing the budget, okay, we voted on it, and that's what was agreed upon. No, it was not unanimous, but that's what was agreed upon. And, no, people were not happy, but that's how we got to the budget, and the budget was to where we wouldn't have to raise any taxes. And now all of a sudden, halfway through the year, we're gonna have to start pulling some more money out when we've already accepted a 2022 budget. And these budget openings we probably got enough in general, you know, to not have to raise taxes, but it just seems like we're kind of in a windfall of, we can just pull it from here, we can just pull it from there, and I think there's too much of that attitude already in the county coffers, that we can just use money willy-nilly or, you know, wherever we want, and you pay for this, and then I'll talk to you later about it. There's a lot of that going on that really bothers me. I think, to be honest with you, I wish that we would just, you know, in our discussions, I remember last fall, I was very much adamant for those that were professional, had a credential. I thought that was qualified, but you don't have to have a professional recommendation or qualification if you run for certain offices. You can just throw your name out there, and I still feel that is not a good, wise use of whether people have done their job or not. I was very strong that it hurts me to sit there and go, okay, we're going to give them a big raise, and they've been in so little and so not very much time, and all of a sudden they come in for just a few months and then you get a big raise. I go, wow, that's the kind of job I would like, you know, for just putting your face out there and you get a big raise just because everyone else did. But that doesn't, to me, I don't know whether we're really looking out after the people's money wisely if we're just willy-nilly throwing, everybody gets it. Kumbaya, everyone's happy. I'm not really in favor of that. And plus, we've already agreed upon something. Okay, if that's the case, then I will vote against it because I think that our 2022 budget's done, so.
Dave, I agree with you, and I feel the same way. We raised it last time because we were wanting to make sure that we got it high enough for people to run for those offices as they were up for office, and those are certified offices that were up, and I think we need to stick to that. We worked really hard on that budget to try to make sure we didn't have to raise taxes, and to come back now and fix it halfway through. And I don't know. I just think we need to stick to what we have. And I also wanted to just say I appreciate the council's entertaining my idea. I was just trying to figure out a way to be fair, and I think your comments were well spoken and appreciated your thoughts. Thank you.
I'd like to make another comment, Madam Chair, if that'd be possible. It's been spoken that the credential should be in consideration, and I think the people that we are in question here are people that are very, very, very well qualified, both academic and experience. So that really doesn't quite ring true in my mind, because many a times, in order to get a really good individual to leave their place of work and come and work at another place, you gotta either raise their salary or match their salary or do something. And I think these individuals that we brought in, they have proven in the last 8-9 months, they've done a lot of things in their offices that have improved their offices. I could name a few things in each one of those offices that they've improved, and nobody can ever say anything about our county, it's not the recorder, what are you, Brother McAllister?
Treasurer.
Treasurer. It's been said he's the best in the state, so I don't know what type of a degree he's got, but he's proven that he's got the credentials of being very, very good. The other three are very, very, very educated, and they're very experienced at what they do. And so I don't see that we use that as a thing to not compensate them. One of the reasons why the compensation went up, as you recall, a year ago, our salaries across the whole nation went up. He was having a hard time finding people to stay in their jobs. And so we raised everyone's salary in Cache County just to hold them so that they wouldn't go somewhere else. We was having trouble with sheriffs getting offered money from the the highway patrol for a lot more money than what they were getting here. And so we had to do something to keep our employees here so that we didn't have to start training new ones. And that is always very expensive, and it's not very efficient if you have to start retraining. And so it's not so much that they came on and all of a sudden they get a big raise. Everyone in the county at that time seen a 7% raise plus some more. And as a result, it looks like a lot of money, but that's the way it was in the whole nation. I sold my herd of dairy cows because I couldn't keep employees because of the wage factor. I guess I feel that we're singling some of our elected officials out, and I don't think it's fair.
Thank you, Gordy. Any other discussion?
There's all been good points brought up, but this piece that Gina brought out, the things that Dave said are there, but to me, they're measurable points that become very, very hard for a 7-member council to come to a decision on. And that's why I'm going to fall back on the citizens who vote and the committees who determine that. And I'm going to give credence to the committees because I think that they've done their duties and work in them. If not, then I probably shouldn't be on a committee because I put my input in there too. So there's where I'm coming from. There's a lot of debate from all of the others, but I get to the election and to the committees.
To continue on what you said, if we need to make some committee changes, then let's do it. You know, Barbara, maybe you and I more are welcome out on the compensation committee, and we can get some other individuals. Well, we will be because I'll be gone.
I've got enough committees, so thank you.
Anyway, what I'm saying is, let's just vote. I think we've kicked it around long enough.
But I need to go back though. John, do you see a problem with the noticing it, you know, as a public meeting?
I didn't look at minutes, but I have clear recollection that a discussion was had about the need to get notice out for a hearing.
And was that done?
Yes.
Okay.
The notice was provided. I don't remember if there was a formal vote on that, but there was discussion.
Okay. All right.
Hopper at last meeting, he made the I don't know if he made a motion, but he recommended that we review the compensation. And that came out on, it was posted and it came out on our agenda, and I think that's all that's required, isn't it?
It's actually a formal motion.
No, you set the public hearing, there has to be a time.
There has to be a formal motion.
I don't know whether we did that, but.
No, I don't recall. I remember that there was discussion of the need for a hearing, and we would check that there was ample time to notice that hearing, which we did check that and provided notice within the time. Again, I don't recall if there was a vote.
I think the one thing that we might be weak on is if we're supposed to have a public hearing to redo that. We have not done that.
You had a public hearing tonight. The question is whether you voted last time to set the public hearing. And I don't recall if there was a vote. I recall there was a discussion. So, yeah, if you were to pass the ordinance tonight and go back and someone were to go back and see that there wasn't a public hearing, someone with standing could challenge that. The people with standing would be the elected officials whose salaries are affected. They could challenge the ordinance if you pass it. I doubt any of them would challenge the ordinance if you pass it.
Probably not.
Okay. So now I'm lost again. So Gordy has made, a motion.
And I second it.
And
I second it, that we go back to the recommendation of the compensation committee.
Okay.
And fund the salaries of our elected official to the level that we suggested back in December, but not make it retroactive, but make it start July 1.
All right. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. And one abstention from Paul.
So 3, 2, 1. So the motion fails.
Does the motion fail?
you vote for it?
I did vote for it.
2, 3, 4.
No, it takes,
No,
I voted no
She voted no.
and abstain, and it takes,
Is that a neutral vote, or is it stay neutral?
it takes 4 votes to pass.
So I guess the motion fails,
Motion didn't pass.
right?
See, we're down 1 councilman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And Gordy, I'd like to say, I am actually voting for my constituents. The people that have reached out to me, they've talked to me, they've called me. In my area, I have talked with them many times, and they are in agreement. So I'm voting for them.
I've had.
Not everyone, but the majority that have talked with me, I am voting for them.
I've had constituents that have expressed that same thing, and I've had constituents and other people that are not my constituents say we have made a major mistake when we start splitting things up. So we are where we are. Didn't pass.
It did not pass. All right. Thank you. Okay, other business. Hyde Park Hometown Days Velvet Highway Parade. Saturday, this coming Saturday, apparently, at 10 a.m. Anyone interested in going to that?
I cannot make that.
I cannot either. Gordy, you're wanting to go?
What are we talking about?
Other business, 12A.
Hyde Park Parade.
Hyde Park.
No, I'm not going to Hyde Park.
Okay, I thought I saw your arm. Okay. Okay. Now, reminder, we have a joint meeting with Logan City on Thursday, July 21st, 2022 at 5:30 at the Logan Environmental Center. Okay, we decided there because the event center was not available and any place here was not large enough. And from what we understand, Mayor Daines is inviting all the mayors. Is that correct?
She was to reach out to him. She said
She assumed they were being invited, so.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
in meetings I had, says that she would mention that to them because she had a meeting with them.
Okay.
So I don't know. We ought to reach out to her and remind her.
Yeah, I want to make sure that if they're to be invited, that they need to be there. Okay. Logan City Pioneer Day Parade, Saturday, July 23rd at noon. I can still do that. If I need to go by myself, I will. But if no one else wants to go, I won't go.
I will come with you, but I will be at the Days of 47.
That's right. Okay. Okay, so I guess I'm not going either then.
Down where you
Okay. So that's out. North Logan Pioneer Day Parade, Monday, July 25th at 10 a.m.
I can do that. Does anyone want to come with?
I will be working, so I won't be able to go.
That's a work day for me also.
Did we get an invite from the Amending Parade Committee? So maybe they're not doing a parade, I don't know. John and I went one year and had a great time.
On the 24th, they do a
I
parade?
don't know what day their celebration is even on.
Seems like it was earlier in the summer, but I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was earlier.
They do May Day, but they also do a pioneer celebration there. And remember, they have the Menden
Yeah.
softball tournament,
Right,
and they have fireworks. And I know in the past, I know there's been years that they did have a parade, but I don't know if it's still. In fact, I know it's on because there's a guy that's got a yak over there that wants to ride it in the parade. I've heard that story.
I've never seen somebody.
I hope he does too, and you ride the other one.
Now, hey,
Yeah, see if he'll bring it and let us ride it.
anywhere around it.
Yakety, yakety, yakety.
All right, so far, Gina, on the North Logan Pioneer Day Parade, do you want to go by yourself?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll see. I'll let you know for sure, Janine.
Awesome.
I'll contact you.
You're signed up, so just let me know if you can't, and I'll cancel.
Okay, thank you so much.
Council Summer Social, we need to decide on a date, right, Gordy?
Let's decide right now.
Okay.
Which date is best, either the Thursday, the 25th, or Friday, the 26th?
And that's August, correct?
That's August.
Okay.
July, if you remember.
Thursday's best for me.
I agree with Thursday.
Thursday's good for me.
I'm fine either way.
Either one, Paul?
Thursday's
Will you
good.
bring your wife this time?
I think so, she'll see. She wants to be seen in public with me.
John, will you bring Kali or? I'll bring Kali.
I'll check.
All right.
Well, she's already promised she'll come, so.
At what time, Gordy? Oh, awesome.
Is it
Awesome.
on?
I'm not for amending.
When is it?
It says July 23rd at noon on Main Street.
What day of the week is that?
That's Saturday.
Saturday, you want to go
No,
lower?
I'm canceling the Logan one, so.
I guess.
Is it
I
at
went to
noon,
the last
did you
one.
say? Thank you.
Amended?
Yeah.
You and I'll go, we'll invite
Okay.
Paul. We still love Paul.
You'll be seen in public.
You want to come?
There we go.
So you guys sat in the general and chew candy, right? We're sitting in my side by side and chewing candy then.
That works great.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll do
As long as you have a real gorgeous chauffeur.
So you want
So I gotta put out an ad?
No, want my wife to come by, she'll drive you around.
So who's doing amending?
No one's got a cute wife.
Paul coming?
I think I'm out of town that day,
So
so
me and Gordy.
Okay. And I'll have to try and get a hold of him, because I haven't heard anything. I'll see if I can get in.
You call Mayor,
Bust.
Bust.
Huh?
Zip ties, and then just punch holes in the sides, it works great. Because the magnets won't go on the.
Yeah, on the side.
David,
With holes.
David, I just got a text. She's coming for Connie.
Okay.
She's probably coming for you too, Gordy.
Now, the other question I have with our social, do you want to invite any past council members, or, how broad do you want it to go? The only council member that's been with us all is John White. And,
We need John.
So let's invite John, for sure.
What are the council members that you guys have been with?
John.
Greg Merrill.
Yeah.
Greg.
Merrill and Mayor,
Peterson.
it was a little short.
Well, we
time.
go back with you, it goes back to
Oh, yeah.
Adam.
Yeah.
I think Moses is on your.
What?
We go back to John Hanson and Brian Chambers, and we go back so far that some of them even died. The one guy that used to love a shrimp boil was Mayor, that was on the council, and then he went, Mayor Peterson, Craig Peterson. He'll do anything to come to that shrimp boil.
Tell them to bring the shrimp.
And to bring a shrimp.
Okay, so who did we cite? John White?
Was
John
that
White.
or Craig Butters? We haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah, it
We'll,
would,
we'll invite some of our county people that's in this meeting with us all the time.
okay. Did we decide a time, Gordy?
I think, let me see. What's best for everybody? Those people that live clear up the north end of the valley, that's quite a drive, the time they walk that distance. It takes
Yeah.
them a while.
You gotta start in the morning.
We'll be riding your yak.
Your yak, you'll come down in the yak. Is 6 good for everybody?
Uh-huh.
Okay, because it can get hot,
Yeah.
and it can get cold, so just go there.
Okay, 6 o'clock, Thursday, August 25th,
At Gordy's house.
at Gordy's house.
John might even carry a prime rib under his arm like he did last time.
Okay, very good. All right, we're down to council member reports. Councilwoman Gina, do you have any reports you'd like to give to us?
As you probably all know, I have allergies. That's my report. I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay, very good. David Erickson.
No.
Okay, Gordy.
Council, I appreciate our discussions, even if we don't agree. I really appreciate them. And I want everybody to know that that's what we're here for. The most important thing is to don't hold grudges. Paul and I will always be friends. No matter what.
Good deal.
Even when he becomes an attorney, I'll still try my best to be his friend.
All right, Nolan.
I don't have much. I think the I think the council on planning and zoning meetings, having those help. Again, say those guys do a lot. We really need to look at their compensation. $15 a time just doesn't do much for, I mean, those guys put in a lot of hours.
They do.
What is the compensation for them?
$15 a meeting.
No.
Nope.
Nolan,
That
I'm
was
glad
one of
you
the
brought
things
that
that
up.
I,
Can we just add that to our budget opening and just, because we still have our budget opening open, could we just increase their?
Personally, these kind of things, I think let's look at it for a whole nother year, you know, at the beginning of the year, and let's get it set up right.
Yeah, that's true.
Halfway through,
Fair enough, Dave, yeah, you're right.
Make sure it fits all the way through.
So let's look at that. Nolan, please remind me. Yeah.
And then also,
Well, could we include them on that, what's that pay called?
Oh, premium pay.
Premium pay? They were coming to meetings, they were doing everything. Could they
But
be
they have to be
included?
employees, don't they, John?
Well, they got elected officials. Can we do appointed officials?
Premium pay is written, but I don't know if they qualify as employees. Amy would have to.
Okay. Can we check that out? I mean, that might be a way to, until we redo the.
My guess is they qualify as part-time.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
the other thing I was going to talk about is I went with Chief Hammer to the Paradise thing, and it got me thinking about our volunteer fire department group around here, and I don't know whether volunteers there are, but I would like to think or see or recommend that in the future we consider something from the county council to recognize those volunteers, have some kind of
Awesome.
state meeting or something. I don't know, just something out there for you guys to consider, because I saw those guys up there Saturday, hot as sin, and most fires are, and it's inconvenient for those guys, because most of the volunteer guys are people who stay home and work from home. And so when they're at a call, they've dropped what they're working at, so.
we do
Just
go
something
around,
to look.
we do go around and meet with each one of the departments, and we give them a Texas Roadhouse.
So maybe
meal
that considers it, I didn't know they did that.
And that's 2 of them for $25, so.
I didn't know that
we do-
either,
We
no.
do go around to each one of those.
Okay, maybe that suffices,
And
so.
that's what we do, and they want, you ask them if they would rather have it somewhere else, and for some reason they wanna go to that noisy place. I guess they wanna make a lot of noise while they're there as well, but that's their preference, they really like that.
Well, they serve beer there too, so.
That's, we do that, did you know that?
I didn't,
I
that's
didn't
why,
know that
I didn't
either.
know that, so.
We really haven't for a couple of years, though, have we?
No, you and I haven't.
It's
We
been a couple
went
years.
back and forth, but I know that the Chief Hammer goes every year.
COVID hit, it's kind of put a wrench in things,
Yeah.
but we haven't been back since.
Last year he went.
Is there anybody else that volunteers? Do we
Rob
have
did, he went along.
any other groups,
Yeah, Chief Amherst.
to sheriffs or anything?
And they've only done it.
Well, the people that do the fair, but I think that they give them a dinner.
Do they?
How about search and rescue?
Search and rescue, that's the other one.
Or,
And those guys put time in at the fair too, so.
Yeah.
like the sheriff's reserves, maybe.
Well, and then I talked to, for instance, a guy that's on the ambulance, and if you're on a paramedic, you do get paid, but still, when a call comes in, they drop what they're doing and go, so.
They do.
I just think we ought to recognize them, and if you're doing the gift certificates, that's cool. I
We
just
go and meet
brought
with
it
them
up.
and we thank them and try to make a big deal out of it. And when you hand out those 2 cards for $50, they're happy for it. At least we're saying, we know who you are and we appreciate you.
Okay, very good. Paul?
I will just add some color for you, Barbara.
Okay. First of all, I don't know if you all remember this letter we got from Lewiston City. I don't think we've acted on that.
Never discussed it.
And I think we really do need to consider it.
We brought it up in our budget meeting.
We
discussed
did.
it in there, and we were talking about, that's when we asked what other communities had got ARPA money or whatever else, and Gina did some checking, and they got some, but
They did get some.
I'm just saying, if we open it to Lewiston, we open it in consideration for a bunch.
Well, but
Yeah.
that's, the thing is that those ARPA monies, they were very detailed on infrastructure, on water, sewage, you know, and all those kind of things, which, to me, that's what Lewiston is after, versus a lot of the flowery things that I'm starting to see come our way.
And I think, to your point, right, that's probably a good thing. We're looking for infrastructure. The unique thing about Cache County is we don't have in the county infrastructure. It's all in communities. And so maybe we should, I mean, if we do open it to them, maybe that opens it to some of the different communities. We've got so many unfunded infrastructure projects that we need to do throughout the county for communities. It might be a good thing to look at, to do that rather than.
We got some bridges,
Yeah.
Well, okay, then we should, rather than open it up to them putting it to trails, we should say this is for sewer, water, bridges, whatever else. Does that make sense? Did we consider it that way? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and then what, let them apply, let local government apply, is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just saying if we're talking about sewer, and to Paul's point, the infrastructure, I mean, you know, Wellsville has a trail committee, so I'd rather, if we say we're opening it to municipalities, we go back to that infrastructure, sewer, water, bridges, or something that's building up.
That's already existing that needs some type of update, upgrade, improvement, rather than new monies being spent to say, hey, we've got stuff already existing there that we need to upgrade.
And then 5 years later, they're saying, where are you again?
Yeah.
Okay, good point.
Very good point.
Good point. All right.
You're a good man. Only once in a while.
I would like to report to the council that Paul and I have visited with Jordan Mathis and Beth Smith regarding the receiving center. And we've gotten some really good input from each of them. Our feeling is just, and Paul, you can correct me any way you want, that they are willing to look at a receiving center. They don't know when.
Is this for the mental?
Pardon me?
Mental receiving center?
Well, where the sheriff's department refers them over.
Right.
Okay.
Supposedly, this is state money.
Correct.
So that this
Correct.
comes nothing from the county. So
Exactly.
I have asked, and I sat in on that meeting, and at first I was wondering why we didn't put that money to the end result. Because only 23 hours do you get to stay at the receiving center, and then you're out.
Yes.
So, but Terrell said she appreciates it, the sheriff has said he's in favor of it, Logan City Hospital says they're in favor of it.
The attorney's office is in favor of it.
So it seems that it would be some good from there. It's just, once it's there, and because they talked about funding in that, that's where I'm like, okay, does that come back on the county, or where does that come from?
Okay, this is what we have come to a conclusion, very good conclusion of between Jordan and Beth, is they feel like they would like to staff that receiving center. They really don't think that it's the county's place to staff it. They want to.
That's kind of what I feel.
Yeah, they want to staff it. They feel they have the people to take care of the needs and know what they're doing and go from there.
Will any sheriff have to stay in there during that time or anything?
We didn't get into that
We didn't
detail.
get- yeah.
But it was just more to talk about, hey, what would the county do, what would they do? And from our understanding, between the funding as it comes from the state, it's gonna flow into their organizations. Not flow through the county, so it'll flow through their organizations for both staffing and physical facilities. So it's one of those things that the county can support them in their efforts, but it should be driven by their organizations entirely, and we're just there to.
Isn't there hopes to get the old fire department there? That's what they'd expressed.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a couple different things, and they've got the budget, and they can move some properties
They
around
do
within
have the
their
budget,
organizations. That we're just there to, hey, if you need some support from the county, if we can do some things. But as far as us funding a building, or as far as us spinning up a staff to do any of that, we should leave it in their hands.
But does this cover also for Rich County, and they'll be able to all,
Yes.
Yes.
There was
because-
discussion on all three counties.
It'd be a plus all the way through.
And that's how the money's flowing from the state almost in a 3-county area, so they're able to leverage that rather than making it Cache County centric, because they're already working with the Bear River Association of Governments footprint. So it's best for them to.
They did mention, both Jordan and Beth did mention that they would like to have easy accessibility for box elder to come over, they looking at a good location so that they can be, you know, serviced also fairly easily. So Paul and I just thought would let you guys know what we've been working on that way, and if you have any input or anything.
I think our executive has really got in his mind that that's a need that he would like to see happen, and it's you know, if we can make this happen, that's good.
But in that meeting, there was a question from the state, would there be county funds involved in there? And that's when I said, I don't think so.
And it didn't sound like they were gonna need any to do.
I have visited with Dan Johnson.
He and Wilson were there and asked that.
And Paul's has visited with Chris Wilson, and I've let Dan get an idea of how the council was feeling, but I wanted to bring it up to you guys to let you know what we were doing. Yes, Dave.
Well, a few weeks ago when Jordan was sharing, you know, we asked him that very question, and he says, yes, that's something that they could do.
Yes.
So, you know, he's talked with you individually. I think he's reported to us with the same thing, and I totally agree with everything that you guys are saying. That I think that's the place that it should happen. That's the expertise. That's the professionals. That's the treatment people. They know what to do. And for us to just go invent the whole wheel again and just have it account, I think that's just another level of government that we just don't need right now.
Right.
And to be quite honest, I don't think they want it. They want, you know, like Paul said, they want it to funnel through them and feel the county's support, but not, you know, run the show.
I do have something.
Okay, Gina has one more item.
Your discussion reminded me. So the Utah State Legislature is studying how health departments are funded and how much funding should come from the county, how much funding should come from the state. And so myself, Brandy, the CEO of UAC, along with Shelley Brennan, we met today with Jordan and some of I can't remember all the names, but they're representatives of the 13 health departments, and trying to get together, figuring out how to move forward with getting the county commissioners and councils in on this, as well as the auditors, to figure out what information to come together on to give to the Utah legislature. So just a heads up that we're working on that in the background. We're hoping to get something out to USAC, the County Councils and Commission group, but you know, it'll be a couple weeks. So just so you know.
Okay, great. All right, any other comments?
Goodbye.